I was 6 weeks pregnant with twins when my sister lifted the cake knife at her own baby shower and said, "This is my day." The frosting still clung to the blade. Confetti stuck to the grass, and I could still feel the cold ultrasound gel on my belly from that morning, 2 heartbeats, tiny and bright, when the room pivoted toward me like a camera finding its villain. It wasn't the first time she redirected a spotlight. At 12, she fainted during my first piano recital. In high school, she had a sudden heart scare on my prom night. At my college graduation, she cried so loudly they paused the ceremony. Every milestone I touched, she rewrote the script and took the lead. But this was new: a cake knife, 3 dozen guests, and our mother's palm across my cheek when I told her I was pregnant. 10 phones caught everything. One lawyer would later call that footage Exhibit A. Before I could leave, my sister leaned in with a smile that never reached her eyes and whispered, loud enough for the closest 5 cameras, "If I lose my baby, I'll make sure you lose yours." By sunrise, the clips were everywhere. Strangers with usernames for faces were diagnosing us from their couches. By lunch, the doorbell was a siren. By night, I had what felt like a choice between hiding or performing my innocence for the internet. I did neither. I started documenting. I learned that the opposite of chaos wasn't a bigger speech. It was a smaller plan. I wrote 3 lines on an index card I could say through wood. Status: I'm safe. Plan: I meet in public by appointment. Boundary: I don't argue at the door or on the phone. I set all talks to noon, 20 minutes, public table, split check, and I put everything else on paper: screen grabs, timestamps, witness names, the exact words I did and didn't say. This is the story of how the knife at a baby shower turned into police logs, hospital audits, a courtroom, and, eventually, something gentler: a life I could keep. I'm not here to burn anyone down. I'm here to hand you the sentences, the clocks, and the tiny policies that kept 2 heartbeats safe while the internet tried to make me an episode. If someone tried to hijack your big day, what's the one sentence you wish you'd said? Word for word? Drop it in the comments. I'll pin the clearest lines so another woman scrolling at 2 a.m. can borrow them. Before the cake knife and the confetti, there was a script my family knew by heart. It started when we were kids and hardened into something adults called just how she is. The way you say weather, as if no one is responsible for rain. At 6, I brought home a crayon certificate that said, "Excellent listener." My sister brought home a story about how a boy pushed her on the playground. Mom taped her story to the fridge and used my certificate to level a wobbly table. It wasn't malicious, it was gravity. The room tilted toward drama, and everything else slid. The first theft that felt like theft happened at my piano recital. I was 12 and wearing a dress that made my elbows feel like strangers. Halfway through Claire de Lune, my sister swayed in the aisle and executed the most photogenic feint outside a Victorian novel. Adults sprinted. A choir mom waved smelling salts like a magic wand. I lifted my fingers off the keys and learned how applause moves when a different body claims the floor. In the car, Mom said I should be proud. My performance created such emotion. That was the day I began translating nice words that were not nice. Prom night played like a sequel. I had a borrowed dress and a quiet date named Adam who said please to waiters and meant it. At 8:30, my sister texted heart scare, and Mom said we needed to come home just to be safe. We left early, drove to urgent care, and watched her laugh with a nurse over a vending machine while an EKG printed normal. I ripped my wrist corsage off in the parking lot and learned a different translation. Emergency can also mean your joy makes me itch. College graduation, same plot with better lighting. When the dean said my name, Mom's face crumpled like tissue paper. and my sister produced a whale that could have called ships home. The ceremony paused. People turned. I turned too, the way you do when a siren passes, even though it isn't yours. The registrar snapped the tassel from my cap and said, "Family is intense." I wrote intense OAS, erases in the back of my program, and slid it into my bag like evidence. By the time I got engaged, I had a pre-game ritual for gatherings. Eat before I went, park nose out, set an exit alarm, keep my tone coffee shop casual, and my answers present tense. Bring a cardigan, a mint, and cash for my half of the check so money couldn't become a leash. We threw a small engagement party at a wine bar with free olives and a patient bartender. 15 minutes in, my sister announced, hand to abdomen, a possible pregnancy. The room pivoted like a camera. By dessert, guests were swapping baby names. We got 2 cards and a hug that felt like a wipe. The thing about living in that ecosystem is that you adapt in ways that look like personality. I became practical. I kept receipts. I learned that if I carried a pen, adults treated me like a clipboard instead of a resource. I built small structures that let me finish days, calendar blocks, grocery lists, the habit of writing one sentence about what had actually happened so my brain couldn't rewrite it at 2 a.m. I thought of these as quirks. Later, I would call them survival. I want to be honest about my part. I didn't float through this like a saint. I resented the way the world bent for her. I learned to anticipate the crash and cushion my life. I also learned to game it. If we were assigning tables for Thanksgiving, I volunteered for Kids Corner so I could control the cutlery and the conversation. If we split dessert, I served everyone and kept the smallest slice so no one could accuse me of taking. That's not virtue. That's engineering in a storm. When social media arrived, the weather found a megaphone. Fainting at a recital became alive. A prom scare became a story time with a filter that made her eyes look bigger and sadder. If you think I'm judging, I am, and I'm confessing. When I got my first job with benefits, I posted the desk plant like it proved adulthood. When we got engaged, I posted the ring like it was a diploma. We were both telling versions of a story that asked strangers to clap. There were quieter thefts, the ones that trained my body more than my brain. At Dad's funeral, she arrived late with mascara like black lightning and whispered, "Everyone is looking at me." At a cousin's baby blessing, she took a nail file to the gift table ribbon until the bow came apart and then announced the ribbon was dangerous for babies. It always started with safety. It ended with center. Mom wasn't a villain. She was a woman who had built her self-worth in reaction. She solved problems. She soothed. She didn't know how to sit across from intensity and say no. I don't say this to absolve her. I say it to understand the water I swam in. When I asked Mom softly to hold one boundary, she answered with weather reports. She's under stress. You know how she is. Be the bigger person. In our house, bigger person meant absorb impact. What do you do with that when you're 32 and you want a life that isn't a stage? If you're me, you try to opt out politely. You plan small. You keep your news private for 24 hours before telling anyone so you can experience it in your own body first. You say no to group trips and yes to coffee with one friend at a time. You build a work life where competence buys you enough quiet to remember your name. And still, milestones hunted me. When we got our first apartment, my sister arrived with a housewarming plant and a stomach ache so dramatic, we spent the evening in urgent care, waiting rooms comparing triage wristbands like festival passes. When my husband got a promotion, she arrived at the celebratory dinner in a thrifted wedding dress as a joke and cried when no one laughed. Jokes are powerful when they come with a knife. All that is how I walked into her baby shower already braced. I had a plan: arrive fed, leave early, hug the aunt who always smells like cinnamon, keep the conversation present tense, and compliment the diaper cake like it had feelings. I told myself I would not announce anything. I wore a blouse that could hide a small swell and shoes I could walk in fast. I parked 2 houses down, facing out. The morning of the shower, I had a routine OB appointment that turned into a snapshot of 2 tiny heartbeats that looked like punctuation and inside my body. I thought about keeping that photo to myself for a week. I also thought about the years of swallowing news so other people could own rooms. I chose something in the middle. I texted Mom from the parking lot with 2 sentences. Good check. We saw 2. I asked her not to say anything at the party because I wanted the day to be about one baby. She sent a heart and a prayer hands emoji and the words, "Of course." I believed her the way you believe seatbelts will save you, even if everyone is driving like a movie. When I walked into the backyard, balloons, a banner, plastic champagne flutes posing as a toast, I felt the familiar tilt. The host announced games. Someone passed a Sharpie to write wishes on diapers. Within 10 minutes, 3 guests I barely knew had asked, "When is it your turn?" I smiled the way you smile when the only safe answer is later. My sister's best friend did the maneuver women do when they think they're being helpful and asked if my face looked glowy. I learned another translation. Glowy means suspicious. I lasted 40 minutes before the cake came out, and someone thought now was a good time to make it a group Q&A about my womb. I made the mistake of being honest. I said, "We had a good check today." I did not say twins. I did not say a word about due dates or names or hope, but hope has a smell, and some people hunt. I wish I could tell you that if I had stayed quiet, everything would have been fine. I don't believe that. The script would have found a reason to flip anyway. That day, it chose the cake. Looking back, I can see how I tried to hedge my life. Half confessions, half exits, the way you keep one shoe on so you can run. I can also see how much I wanted to be seen by the people who kept asking me to dim. It's embarrassing to admit that I wanted both. But both is why the next part happened the way it did. Both is why I made a decision I would regret and then transform. I tried to beat a spotlight theft with a spotlight of my own. I told you in the hook that I was 6 weeks pregnant with twins at her shower. I didn't tell you why I'd gotten pregnant when I did. That confession belongs to the next section. It will not make me look heroic. It will make me look like a person who grew up in weather and tried to build a roof out of thunder. Before we go there, I want to leave you with the pattern so you can see the choice inside it. In my family, attention was oxygen. Scarcity made us sprint. And the person who could make a scene controlled the room. I had learned to survive by being useful and quiet. The day of the shower, I tried something else. It did not go the way movie montages promise. It went the way families do: messy, loud, filmed, litigated, and eventually filed. After the engagement party that became my sister's maybe I'm pregnant party, I went home and opened a spreadsheet. It had tabs called savings, leave, nursery, and this is the embarrassing one, timing. We had always planned to try sometime next year. That night, I moved the plan up 3 squares like I was sliding furniture. I told myself it was practical. I had benefits now. My manager was supportive. We could make it work. The truth under the truth was smaller and uglier. I wanted a milestone no one could hijack. I didn't say that out loud. I said things that sounded noble. We're not getting younger. I want the energy for toddlers. Life is short. All true. None were the reason I set a reminder in my phone for day 12 and tucked ovulation strips in my makeup bag like contraband. When my husband asked, "Why now?" I said, because I'm ready, and then changed the subject. It wasn't a total lie. It just wasn't the whole sentence. We didn't have a romantic montage. We had a calendar and an app that congratulated me for remembering my own body. 2 weeks later, a cheap test showed a second line so faint, I had to tilt it toward the window like a secret. I bought 3 more brands at 3 different drugstores because shame makes you an amateur magician. When the 4th test bloomed pink, something shifted. I had wanted to win. Suddenly, I wanted to keep. The first ultrasound made a mockery of my scoreboard. The tech turned the screen, and there they were, 2 flickers in a small, dark universe. She printed 2 photos with grainy punctuation and wrote baby A and baby B in bubble letters, like optimism could be inked. I cried big, ugly cries, the kind I would have mocked in anyone else. I felt a hallway open inside my chest, lit with small lamps. The part of me that had timed this for leverage sat down in that hallway and went quiet. On the drive home, the world looked like it had been washed. Stoplights felt benevolent. My husband put his hand on my knee and didn't take it off at red lights. We didn't talk about strategy. We talked about pancakes on Saturdays and names that wouldn't get weird at roll call. Then we pulled into our lot and saw a neighbor watching a clip from my sister's shower on her phone. Some other shower years ago, the one where she cried because the presents were too generous, and the host had to turn off the music. The neighbor's eyes flicked up to mine. "You two are so close," she said. I nodded and thought, not close enough to keep this safe. I set 2 rules that night. The first was 1 day to myself. Any news I cared about, I would keep for 24 hours before telling anyone. The second was no group reveals. Nothing important would be announced in rooms where a committee could direct the scene. They weren't perfect rules. They were rails I could hold. I also made a mistake that looked like self-control. I half confessed. I told my husband the truth about the spreadsheet after the ultrasound, when the hallway in my ribs had light. He didn't shame me. He said, "You grew up in a house where attention was a currency. Of course, part of you learned to trade in it." Then he said, "Let's trade in small." We high-fived like nerds, because we are nerds, and went to buy saltines like pilgrims making an offering. The internet didn't care about my rules. My Discover page turned into a nursery aisle. I hadn't posted anything, but the algorithm smelled the way I typed ginger tea for nausea and fed me women arranging tiny socks in drawers. I wanted to be one of them. I also wanted to throw my phone into the river. I compromised. I posted a photo of my hand on a mug, no face, no caption, and then stared at it like a crime scene. My sister's best friend commented a row of eyes. I deleted the post and put my phone under a towel like a pet I didn't want to wake. I kept the sonogram in a book like a secret identity. I didn't tell my mother, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I wanted to learn what it felt like to feel something without witnesses. For a week it worked. I ate crackers. I worked my shifts. I watched a woman at the grocery store pick up a cantaloupe with both hands like reverence and thought, that's how I will hold them. I let hope sit in the room without a sweater. Then came the little leaks you can't police if you're in a group chat with people who live on Wi-Fi. I texted my mom 2 sentences after an OB check, good appointment. We saw 2, and asked her to keep it for 1 day. 10 minutes later, a cousin sent me a side-eye emoji with heard the news. I called my mother and she said it wasn't her. She had only told my sister because family. I felt the old porch open under my feet. I closed it with time. I'm going to take 1 day. We can talk Friday at noon at the cafe. 20 minutes. She said, "You're being dramatic." I wanted to laugh, She wanted a scene. I wanted a schedule. It's tempting to paint my sister as a villain and me as a sage. Here's what's also true. The week before her shower, I bought a dress that skated the line between cozy and announcement. I told myself I needed something forgiving. I also told myself that if someone asked, I would allow one glowy sentence. This is how you rationalize when you are equal parts joy and chess. I rehearsed my answer in the mirror. We had a good check. Present tense, no details. It sounded safe. It also sounded like bait. On the morning of the shower, I broke my one-day rule and texted my mom from the clinic parking lot. I can justify it a dozen ways. She's my mother. She deserved to know. I wanted to give her time to compose herself. But the truth is, I wanted credit for being generous. I had built a house out of rules and then kicked one chair leg out with my own foot. That's how I walked into a backyard full of balloons and guessed the due date games with a secret that was already leaking. People took one look at my face and did the glow thing women do to each other when they're trying to be kind and being invasive. When is it your turn? Someone asked. Later, I said, and tucked my hand under a napkin so it wouldn't betray me. There's a version of this story where I wait, I leave early, I keep the sonogram in my bag like a talisman, and the knife never comes out. I don't know if I believe that version. The script doesn't need fuel, it needs audience. But I do know I made 3 choices that set the stage. 1, I moved the plan up to win a room. 2, I half told the truth because I wanted points for restraint. 3, I told myself I could control a group with tone and timing. Pregnancy humbled all 3. Here's the part that made me soften even before anything exploded. My body got tender, not just nauseous tender, reverent. I started touching door frames like they were holy. I cried at commercials for paper towels. I put my hand on my stomach in the grocery store line and then yanked it back like a teenager caught kissing. 2 heartbeats were writing on the inside of me. Not on the internet, not on a cake, not in a courtroom, on me. That's the day I scribbled a sentence on an index card I hadn't yet learned to live by. You are not the emergency. You are the schedule. I didn't believe it yet. I wanted to. Meanwhile, the pre-show did what it does. A group text asked everyone to bring one wish for the baby. The host posted a flat lake of iced cookies and tiny onesies and tagged the world. My sister replied with a selfie in soft light and the caption, "Finally, my moment." I read my like an accusation and then hated myself for reading anything into anything. I made a wish on a diaper with a Sharpie at my own kitchen table so I could get it out of my system. I wrote, "May you grow up around quiet people." It looked ridiculous next to cartoons of storks. It also looked like a prayer. On the way to the shower, I did my little safety ritual, fed, parked nose out, exit alarm, cash for split checks, and told myself I could be an adult in a yard with balloons. I was, until I wasn't. Someone asked a question. I gave the half answer I had rehearsed. We had a good check today. The room leaned. Phones lifted like sunflowers. My mother's hand found my cheek the way a reflex finds a knee. The cake knife found air. If you're waiting for me to tell you I deserved what came next because my motives weren't pure, you will wait a long time. No one deserves a knife in the speech, a slap on a lawn, or a threat spoken in front of cameras. What I will say is this: mixed motives made me soft in the wrong places. I thought I could out-charm a script that had been running since I learned Claire de Lune. That's the last day I tried. The morning after, when the clips were everywhere and my doorbell turned into a siren, I learned a new verb: document. I wrote the 3 lines I could say through wood. I chose noon tables, 20 minutes, and split checks. I stopped auditioning for sympathy. I started making files. But that belongs to the next chapter. For this one, I want to leave the confession whole. I chased a spotlight and found 2 heartbeats. The heartbeats won. They always will. The backyard looked like a Pinterest board pretending to be a neighborhood. Oh, baby banner, mason jars with lemonade, a diaper cake wearing a crown. At 2:07 p.m., the host clapped for a game where you guess melted chocolate in diapers, and I decided to busy my hands with napkins. Hands with jobs make fewer mistakes. At 2:19, someone's aunt asked loudly, "When is it your turn?" I did the line I'd rehearsed in the mirror. We had a good check today. Present tense, nothing else. A camera phone rose like a sunflower. I angled my body toward the gift table so the moment could pass. Moments in my family rarely pass. The cake came out at 2:26. White frosting, pink roses, silver knife. The host asked my sister to make a wish. She looked down the table, past the onesies and the diaper raffle jar, and landed on me. "What did you say?" she asked, voice bright and thin like a string pulled tight. I kept my eyes on the cake, just that I had a good check. "Are you pregnant?" a cousin chirped, phone already recording. Laughter feathered the edges of the lawn. I said nothing. My sister lifted the knife. "This is my day," she said, smile pinned in place. Someone oohed like this was tea, not Tinder. I stood, slowly, because fast looks like guilt, and said, "I'm going to grab water." You'd think I'd learned that exits are magnets. She stepped toward me, frosting dotting the blade, and whispered with her whole throat, "You steal everything." Then she turned to the semicircle of phones, and louder, "She's trying to steal my baby shower. She's pregnant too." The word hit the yard like a rock in a bird bath. Ripples, clatter, wings. I felt my face heat, the way blood can become a costume you didn't agree to wear. "I'm going to head out," I said, looking at the host, because hosts deserve gentleness even when rooms don't. That's when Mom moved. She cut across the grass, hand already lifted, and, so fast I want to say I dreamed it, slapped me. Not hard enough to bruise. Hard enough to stage the scene. 10 cameras caught the sound. My husband was across the table in 2 strides. "We're leaving," he said, voice low, the way kitchens talk when knives are near. We turned toward the gate. My sister called after us, "If I lose my baby, I'll make sure you lose yours." The threat was public, tendered like a check. The yard went quiet in that particular way crowds do when they know a line has been crossed and they want to look like jurors. I didn't explain. I didn't perform innocence. I left. Our feet hit the driveway like percussion. In the car, my hands shook so badly I had to put them under my thighs to keep from dialing everyone I had ever loved. I took 3 breaths and did the first grown thing I could. I opened the Notes app and wrote a log entry. 2025. 5/11, 2.26, 2:34 p.m. Sister's baby shower. Backyard. Public threat. If I lose my baby. Slap. Mom. Camera phones present. I added names of 3 people whose faces I could conjure without hate blurring the details and the line video exists, because future me believes folders more than outrage. We drove not home, but to a parking lot behind the grocery store because adrenaline lies less in neutral spaces. I called my OB's nurse line first. "I'm safe," I said, first line of my index card. There was an altercation at a family event. I'm 6 weeks with twins. No cramping, just shaking. Should I be seen? She told me what to watch for, what to do if, and said, "Drink water, lie on your left side if you can." Her voice slowed my breath better than any app. Next, I called non-emergency, not 911, not drama. I want to log a public threat and an assault at an address, I said, kitchen voice on. I'm not requesting a patrol at this time, just a case number and instructions on how to attach video if needed. The operator took the details and issued a number I wrote twice, on the note and on the corner of a receipt, because I do not rely on a single piece of paper to remember me. We went home by side streets, not because I was scared of being followed, though I was, but because side streets gave me more time to think between lights. At the apartment, I set the porch light to dusk because rituals remind rooms where they are. Then I did the next 3 boring, essential things. 1. Hydration. Plus food. Plain toast, ginger, tea. Bodies don't care that you're a protagonist. 2. Download. Grabbed every clip I could find before people edited or deleted. Airdropped from a sympathetic cousin. Screen recorded 2 Instagram stories. And requested the original from the host. 3. File names. I labeled them in a way a judge who doesn't love me could understand. 2025-05-11 video baby shower threat. This is my day. Move. 2025-05-11 audio backyard after slap ambient. M4A. 2025-05-11 list witness contact info. V1 PDF. I took screenshots of any comments or captions that invented new facts. She lunged at the cake and saved them with timestamps. Not to litigate the internet, just to know where the fire started. At 4:15 p.m., my phone lit up with a group text that vibrated like a hive. Family chat. 18. I didn't tap. I set my phone to Do Not Disturb and wrote my 3-line SPB on a fresh index card so I wouldn't say anything outside my windows that I couldn't live with later. Status: I'm safe. Plan: I meet in public by appointment. Boundary: I don't argue at the door or on the phone. My husband asked if I wanted him to reply for me. I said no. I wanted to shrink the audience, not outsource it. We turned the TV on to something soothing and unrelated, the Great British Bake Off, which is basically church for people whose families worship conflict. By 6:02, the clips were already migrating. TikTok, Instagram, 2 Facebook groups with names like Neighborhood Moms of Westside. A stranger DM'd, "She's unhinged, I'm Team You." Another wrote, "You're cruel for announcing at her shower." Both wanted me to perform. I didn't. I documented. I opened a new email, addressed it to myself, my husband, and a folder I keep for hard days called Proof, and wrote a 3-paragraph summary. Future me could trust more than feelings. Facts. At approx. 2:26 to 34 p.m. At address, sister raised cake knife, stated, "This is my day." Then, "If I lose my baby, I'll make sure you lose yours." Mother slapped my face. Witnesses plus video. We left immediately. Non-emergency case, jerk arm redacted, issued at 3:02 p.m. No physical harm beyond stinging. Currently hydrated. No cramping. Terms: I will keep all family contact in writing, meet only in public by appointment at noon for 20 minutes, and maintain quiet hours after any meeting. 24 hours. Next steps: collect videos, witnesses, send incident summary to attorney tomorrow. Ask OB for a note, RE, stress, plus precautions, consult about temporary restraining order, TRO, if threats continue. I hit send and exhaled. The email wasn't a prayer. It was a spine. At 8:11 p.m., my doorbell rang. 3 fast taps. I knew the rhythm. I didn't open. That belongs to the next chapter. This chapter ended with me choosing paper over performance. I wrote a list and numbered it because numbered lists feel like railings. 1. Do not argue on camera. 2. Do leave early. 3. Do call non-emergency and get a number. 4. Do eat. 5. Do collect witness info while faces are still names. 6. Do name files like a stranger needs to find them in 30 seconds. 7. Do move all conversations to in writing and windows. I wanted to text my mother a thesis and my sister a curse. I wrote instead, I'm safe. I keep communication in writing. For logistics, email purpose, and 2 noon options next week. I didn't send it. I saved it in notes so I could paste it later without adding adjectives. Before bed, I laid the sonogram photos on my nightstand, set 2 alarms, one for work, one for water, and put my phone face down under a towel. The porch light clicked on at dusk like it always does. Ordinary is the only miracle I trust. In the morning, the clips would be everywhere. A reporter would DM for comment. My doorbell would become a siren. But that night, the last thing I saw was 2 pale commas in a sea of gray and the first line of my card, I'm safe. At 8:11 p.m., the night of the shower, the doorbell turned into a siren. 3 fast taps, a pause, 3 more. I didn't open. I set my phone to record, held the SPB card where my fingers could find it, and spoke through wood in a voice I save for recipes and emergencies. I'm safe. I meet in public by appointment. I don't argue at the door or on the phone. If you need logistics, email purpose, and 2 noon options for next week. A cousin's voice, bright, brittle, answered, We just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes has stolen more of my life than hours ever did. I repeated the line, ended with, I'm not opening this door, and wrote the time on a sticky I kept by the latch. 8:11, 8:14 p.m. I called non-emergency, asked for an incident number to log unscheduled family visit, door unopened, and slid the sticky into a clear sleeve in my proof folder. If it happened, it got paper. By 10 p.m., the clips had migrated from one person's story to 3 neighborhood groups and 2 TikToks with overlay text calling me a saboteur and my sister a brave mama protecting her moment. My DMs split into teams. Team me, you're a saint. Team her, monster. And Team popcorn, spill it. All 3 wanted a performance. I chose a timer. I made 2 templates and pinned them in notes so I could copy-paste without adding adjectives. On, decline, plus, redirect. I keep communication in writing inside windows. For logistics, email purpose plus 2 noon options. I'll respond at 8 a.m. or 6 p.m. 2. Public check-in terms. Public, noon, 20 minutes. Split check, no history. Corrections by email tomorrow after lunch. Every time a message asked for just a call or come outside, I pasted template 1. Every time someone asked for a sit down to hash this out, I pasted template 2. I didn't explain the rules, I used them. At 7:42 a.m. the next morning, I wrote 3 emails before breakfast so the day would have a spine. To HR, subject, FYI. External family matter, no action requested. A 4-sentence note linking the public viral clip, stating no impact to schedule, offering to provide documentation if needed. I attached nothing. I asked for nothing. I gave heads up and a lane. To my OB, subject, FYI, family incident, monitoring stress. 2 lines. 6 weeks with twins, public scene yesterday. No bleeding, cramping, increased anxiety. Requesting note about avoiding confrontation. Will attend today at 2 p.m. if available. To myself and attorney folder, subject, proof. 2025-05-12. Aftermath plan. A 3-paragraph summary. Facts, doorbell, logs, viral spread. Terms, windows, public, noon, 20. Quiet hours, 24. Next, collect witness info. Consult about TRO if threats continue. I labeled the drafts with the date and saved PDFs of sent emails because future me trusts files more than sent mail. Then I ate toast like a person who wanted to be capable by noon. By 9:15, Mom had posted a soft focus selfie captioned, "Hurting today, pray." My name wasn't there. It didn't have to be. The comments performed concern with a side of indictment. Some people just love attention. I screenshotted time, caption, and 3 key comments that invented facts. Not to clap back, just to map the rumor. At 10:03, a reporter DM'd, "We're doing a human interest piece on family drama in the social media age. Want to tell your side?" I templated, "Appreciate the request. I'm not providing comment. Please do not use my image. If needed, you can reference my public statement below." I didn't have a public statement. I wrote one that fit on a Post-it. Public statement, if forced. I'm keeping this in writing with the people involved and with the court if necessary. I won't discuss family history online. I'm focused on health and safety. I saved it as 2025-05 12 ounce statement to public minimum. PDF, so adrenaline couldn't improvise something worse. By noon, the group chat 18 had promoted itself to judge and jury. I muted it for a year. Anyone who actually wanted logistics could email like an adult. One did. My sister's husband. Subject, "Can we talk?" I answered with template 2 and offered thufry 12 zakamu R1220 at a coffee shop near a police substation. Logistics only, no history, split check. I wrote. He sent back, "You're being dramatic." I replied with one word, received. That word is kinder than a fight and stronger than silence. The doorbell returned that night at 7:58 p.m. I didn't open. I spoke the SPB once and started quiet hours, 24. When a voice tried the old script, "If you cared about family," I ended the exchange with the line I practice like a scale. "I'm ending this now. We can try again when we're both respectful, Thursday at noon." Then I logged time and voice, unknown male, likely cousin, and didn't argue with Wood. The hardest part wasn't the internet. It was hunger for audience that still lived in my ribs. Every cell wanted to explain. I replaced explaining with doing. I built a witness list. List witness contact info V1 PDF with phone or email and what they saw, heard in present tense. She lifted knife and said, "This is my day. Mom slapped." I uploaded the best quality video to a private drive, added time codes, and exported a transcript so a judge could read what she said without sound. I made a photo grid of my face, no visible injury, with the caption, "No medical treatment sought. OB informed, tracking stress." Not for Instagram, for court. At 2 p.m., my OB fit me in. That belongs to the next chapter. What mattered in this one was the prep. I walked in with a timeline, a printed doorbell log, and my stress questions written so panic couldn't eat them. What's normal adrenaline versus dangerous? Can you write a note recommending I avoid confrontation? She did. The note became Exhibit Calm. By 4:30, the internet had moved on to a dog who could supposedly say, "Mama." My family hadn't. A cousin posted a collage titled "Sister from Hell" with 3 photos of me mid-blink. I felt my pulse try to argue with pixels. I closed the app and did laundry, not as avoidance, as proof that my life was not made of screens. That night, I sent myself a weekly digest. A trick I learned at work that calms me more than lavender. Subject, proof, weekly digest, FWAR 11/05/18, no action. Files added, at 25/05/11, video, baby shower, threat. Move. 2025-05-11, list witness contact info, V1, PDF. 2025 05 12 Statement Public Minimum PDF SAD 2025 A05 12 Email HRFYI No Action TTF 2025 05 12 Note Doorbell logs.pdf 2025 05 12 OP Note Stress Precautions PDF Terms reaffirmed Windows 8.6 Public Noon Chaka 20 Quiet hours 24 after any meeting. Next. Thu 12 12:20 Coffee Logistics only. Consult attorney RA. TRO if threats continue. I CC'd my husband and labeled it proof, so my 2 a.m. brain would have a folder to argue with instead of ghosts. 2 more small things kept me human that week. I wrote a 1-sentence diary at night. Today, I chose a timer over a tirade. Some days the sentence was uglier. Today, I almost replied at 11:03 p.m., then put my phone under a towel. I ate real food. It sounds too basic to mention until you realize how often drama has starved you. Toast, eggs, soup, warmth in bowls. When Thursday arrived, the coffee shop meeting lasted 18 minutes. He tried to pry history open. I pointed at the card. He tried to negotiate the terms. I pointed at the clock. We set one logistical next step. All items to me by email tomorrow after lunch. Corrections, facts only. I sent a 3-paragraph summary at 4:00 p.m. and turned on quiet hours like a porch light. The porch light came on by itself because I'd set it that way. Here's what I learned in the viral aftershocks. Chaos wants your mouth. Safety wants your calendar. The internet wanted a take. I gave it a timer. Family wanted a scene. I gave them terms. My body wanted a savior. I gave it soup. It wasn't glamorous. It worked. I arrived at the OB's office at 1:52 p.m. with a folder that could have hosted a small wedding. Doorbell log, timeline, stress questions printed in 14 PT so panic couldn't eat them, and a Post-it that read, "You are not the emergency. You are the schedule." The lobby smelled like lemon sanitizer and the kind of hope that makes you whisper. A toddler in sparkly shoes pointed at a fish tank. A mom rubbed a circle on her belly like a secret handshake. I wanted to be only that kind of woman. Fish tank, circle, quiet. The internet had other plans. I chose the folder. The receptionist looked up, kind in the way people are when their job is triage and delight. Name? I gave it. She typed, paused half a second the way people pause when they recognize a story, and then didn't say anything about it. That restraint felt like a heated blanket. A nurse called me back at 2:06. Blood pressure, pulse, the usual quiet choreography. I handed her my questions before courage could get shy. What's normal adrenaline versus dangerous stress at 6 weeks? Can we get a note recommending I avoid confrontations and keep contact in writing? Tanakao, what are safe sleep options if anxiety spikes at night? Can we add a confidential flag to my chart and audit who views it? She scanned the list and nodded like I had brought good ingredients. We can do all of that, she said, and my shoulders dropped a centimeter. My OB came in at 2:14, the way only practiced women enter rooms, direct, warm, unafraid of a detail. We did the scan first because reality is the best sedative I know. 2 flickers again in a small, dark galaxy. Viable twins, she said, printing the photos like receipts for my hope. I breathed in, counted to 5, breathed out, counted to 7, the way Ms. Lopez had taught me over soup. I wasn't a headline. I was a mammal. We talked stress. She drew a little staircase on the paper covering the exam table. Baseline. Activated. overwhelmed. Adrenaline happens, she said, but stacking days at the top of the stairs is the risk. She recommended specific, boring things that save lives: hydration, protein, walks, sleep consistency, quiet hours after any hard conversation, no in-person confrontations. She offered a list of evidence-based non-med supports: breathing cadence, limit social media, warm shower before bed, therapy referral, and said we could revisit meds if symptoms outpaced the plan. The plan felt like a handrail I could hold with wet hands. Then she did the thing I came for. She wrote 2 letters on letterhead that speaks fluent systems. On 2025-05 at 12 OB note, stress, precautions, PDF. Pregnant with dichorionic twins at SARC 6 weeks. Due to recent psychosocial stressor, recommend avoidance of confrontation and harassment. Minimize exposure to distressing stimuli. Maintain written communication only for contentious matters. Prioritize rest, sleep, hygiene. Schedule medical follow-up as planned. Patient may benefit from structured, quiet hours following stressful events. 2025-05 12 OB work accommodation PDF. Recommend flexibility for medical appointments and stable schedule. Avoid high conflict interactions. Allow breaks for hydration, nutrition. She also placed a confidentiality flag on my chart and submitted a request for a privacy audit. Not because anything had happened yet, but because a woman on the internet had once recognized me at urgent care and asked if we were doing this for views. And I had learned that privacy is pre-work, not cleanup. On the way out, a nurse with a bun, like a ballet teacher, leaned in and said quietly, "Your boundaries are medicine." I wanted to put her in my pocket. Instead, I put the PDFs in my proof folder and named them the way judges, HR, and 2AM can all understand. I also printed 1 extra copy for the folder at home and slid it into a clear sleeve behind the sonogram like a bodyguard. In the car, I wrote a 3-paragraph summary to myself, my husband, and the folder that keeps me faithful when adrenaline rehearses. Facts: 2 Celtics vitals, 2.14 scan, viable twins, letters issued, stress precautions, plus work accommodation, chart flagged, privacy audit requested. Terms: quiet hours after any hard contact, 24. Windows, 886. No doorstep, communication in writing. Public, noon, 20. Split check. Next, email HR with work note. Attach stress note to legal folder. Schedule therapy referral. Reduce social media exposure. Hydrate plus protein before bed. Then I did the most countercultural thing a woman can do when the world is spicy. I put my phone face down and ate a sandwich. The week after, the internet ebbed and flowed like an unhelpful tide. At the grocery store, a woman by the cereal said, "Are you the sister from the video?" I used my kitchen voice and the sentence I'd practiced. I'm keeping it in writing with the people involved. I hope you have a good day. I walked away slow because slow looks like choice. At the pharmacy, a clerk whispered, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "Thank you, I'm scheduled." Which doesn't make sense to most people and makes perfect sense to my nervous system. At work, I handed Ray the accommodation note. She read it like policy, not gossip. "Green hour stays green," she said, and shifted 1 shift without making me perform gratitude. I emailed HR my heads-up note, "No action requested," and attached the letter because paperwork is the native language of institutions. Then I took a water break like my doctor, and my babies were my managers. I also wrote the quiet rule on a card for the fridge, in block letters large enough to survive steam. Quiet Rule 24. After any hard contact, meeting, call, doorstep, DM, I enter quiet hours for 24 hours. During quiet hours, I may send, receive, received, but all other replies wait until tomorrow after lunch. Windows, 8 a.m., 6 p.m. only. If someone violates, I extend quiet hours another 24. It looked ridiculous, like labeling salt. It worked. Every time my phone lit up with an essay disguised as a text, I wrote received and put the phone under a towel. Towels are underrated therapists. Because the body keeps score and receipts, I added a few changes that honored mammal math. Evening ritual, warm shower, light stretch, no screens after 8:30, 1 chapter of a paperback, sleep by 10:15. Morning ritual, water at the sink before opening any app, 2 eggs or yogurt with fruit so decisions wouldn't eat breakfast first. Walks, 10 minutes after dinner, no headphones, just feet and sky. News diet, community posts muted. Only 1 daily check of inbox outside windows to move logistics, not feelings. The doorbell tried again twice that week. I didn't open. I said my SPB once like a prayer and logged times like a clerk. The first time, a male voice said, "We can work this out if you stop acting superior." I spoke through wood. Public, noon, 20 minutes. Email purpose, and 2 options. The second time, silence pressed into the peephole. I texted the building manager non-emergency language and asked that a note be made on my account about doorstep contacts. Notes turn annoying into policy. There was one soft moment I don't want to edit out. I sat with Ms. Lopez on her porch, holding the sonogram photos like checks I didn't trust the bank to honor. "How do I be a mom and a witness?" I asked. She handed me soup and answered like she was measuring flour. "You do the part that's in the room," she said. "Feed, rest, file. The rest is tomorrow." I put the soup in my mouth and let the word tomorrow unclench my throat. I created a tiny ritual to honor the room my babies were in. Every night, I put the sonogram on the nightstand, turned the porch light to dusk, and read 1 page of a board book I'd found at the library sale. It felt silly, sweet, steady. A nurse later told me fetuses don't need the very hungry caterpillar read aloud. I told her I did. My proof folder grew teeth and tenderness at the same time. 2025-05 A12 OB Visit Twins 6W Viable PDF 2025-05 12 OB Note Stress Precautions PDF 2025-05 12 OB Work Accommodation PDF 2025-05 12 Email AHRFY No Action PDF 2025-05 Sir 12 Card Quiet Rule 4H TDF. I didn't post any of it. I lived it. When the phishing DMs came, off the record, what really happened? I pasted my decline plus redirect and added received when people tried to drag me past my windows. My blood pressure stayed boring. Boring felt like mercy. Here is what shifted in me that week. I stopped treating calm like a reward I had to earn and started treating it like a policy I could apply. The twins didn't understand the internet, the lawsuit threats, or why an aunt had posted, "Pray for me," without saying for what. They understood chemistry, cortisol down, protein up, 10-minute walks, sleep. When the family meeting invite arrived, subject, "Talk this out like adults," I didn't write a manifesto. I sent 2 noon options, public, 20 minutes, split check, no history, logistics only, and quiet hours after. They read it like a dare. I read it like a crib. That meeting belongs to the next chapter, the one where family meeting, turned out to be a script I no longer auditioned for, and I answered with a timer and paper instead of a performance. For this chapter, I want the camera to rest on 2 gray dots in a black sea and a woman who finally let boring be benevolent. Windows at 8 and 6, quiet hours 24, soup same day, porch light dusk. The internet wanted a plot twist. My babies wanted a schedule. I picked the schedule. The subject line said, family meeting, tonight? As if adulthood were a group project you could sprint through after dinner. I answered with the sentence that kept our walls from learning my pulse. Public, noon, 20 minutes, split check, no history. Corrections by email tomorrow after lunch. 2 options. Thu, fry, 12, jadu, a 12, a duko koi. They wrote back, be reasonable. I wrote, received. I prepped the way you do for weather you've seen before. I picked a cafe near a police substation with big windows and 2 bright lighting, the kind of place that makes everyone behave like their own aunt is watching. I sat with my back to a wall, clock in view. I set my phone to do not disturb, but I kept the timer open, 20 size, loud enough to hear, not loud enough to humiliate. On the tray, water, tea, my terms card, a pen, and a printed meeting template I'd made after too many rooms pretended not to understand. Check in, 20 men, logistics only. Who, hours, no substitutes. Purpose. 1 sentence. Output, date, time, tasks, corrections. Window, facts only. Quiet hours, 24. At 11:59, my mother arrived with my sister's husband. Not my sister. He looked like a person who had practiced a speech in the mirror and wanted to use all the words before they went stale. I stayed seated. We have 20 minutes, I said. Purpose? He blinked. To clear the air. History lives in email, I said, tapping the card. We can do logistics here. Purpose? He tried again. You owe her an apology. History, I said. Logistics? He sighed the long-suffering sigh that wants to recruit a room. Mom filled the pause. Can we agree to take the video down? Purpose located. I wrote it in the blank like a concession stand tally. The video isn't mine, I said. I won't be posting or sharing, and I'll ask the host to keep hers down. Next. He leaned in. And you'll call my wife tonight to make this right. I didn't lean back. I let the timer sit between us like a referee. No calls, communication in writing, windows at 8 and 6. If she has logistics, she can email Purpose, and 2 noon options. Mom tried for sentiment. We're family. The timer ticked politely. We are, I said, which is why we use rules that keep us. He switched tactics. You humiliated her. That slap was nothing. Why are you making this a case number? He wanted to move us into history, a room with no exits. I kept us at the table. Facts and logistics, I said, and slid a copy of my OB's note across instead of a moral. Avoid confrontation, written communication only, quiet hours after stressful events. I'm following medical advice. He didn't read it. He wanted a story. I offered a schedule. If you need to drop off items, bring them Friday 12 while 12:20. Public table, split check. That's what I can keep. He tried to buy more time. 30 minutes isn't too much to ask. I kept the math kind. 20 is what I can keep without lying to tomorrow. We can do 2 rooms, porch on Tuesday and cafe on Friday, both 20. He laughed, not the funny kind. You and your policies. I didn't defend policy. I used it. 5 minutes, I said to the timer. Any other logistics today? Mom slid an envelope toward me with that testing look people get when they want to bend a rule by calling it tradition. Card, I said, offering the out. Card, she answered, and set her hands in her lap like she understood no gifts at the table. We made it through the last 4 minutes, reading a dental form out loud, authorization boxed and bracketed, specify or strike. 10 minutes of actual help moved more life than 2 hours of confession ever had. The timer sounded. I rapped like a cashier who respects a line. Next, Friday 12:20. Drop off, okay. Public table, no history. After. I'll email a summary by 4. You can send corrections, fax only, tomorrow after lunch. Quiet hours, 24, after that. We split checks without a sermon. At the door, my mother hovered in the posture that used to mean say one more nice thing, so I know you love me. I pointed gently at the card. Quiet hours, I said. She nodded once, small and real. We left on time. Back home, I opened my meeting template and filled it like adults fill forms. Subject, proof. The 12 was 12:20. Check-in, logistics only. We met Mom plus Bill, sister absent. Tim Hortons, 12R, 12:20. Used posted terms, public, noon, 20, split check, no history. Read dental form, added micro rule. Received, allowed during quiet hours, all else tomorrow after lunch. We set. Host asked not to repost video. Friday 12 Sadias, 12:20. Drop off. Items, no conversation. No doorstep. All further contact in writing. Next, I'll confirm drop-off at 10 a.m. Corrections, fax only, accepted tomorrow after lunch. Quiet hours, 24, begin now. I CC'd myself and tagged it, proof, so 2 a.m. couldn't convince me the hour had been a fever dream. Then I put the envelope on the counter where I keep pencils, so opening it would be a home act, not a parking lot performance. At 4:07, I sent the summary. At 4:11, my sister texted, "Call me now." I wrote received and stood up to rinse a cup because rinsing prevents replies. She texted again, longer, with a theology of betrayal. I wrote nothing. Quiet hours. At 6 mile on within my window, I sent 2 lines. I keep communication in writing. For logistics, email purpose, and 2 noon options next week. She replied, coward. I wrote received and set the phone under a towel. Towels are better than courage at 6:05. Friday worked exactly like a policy says it should when you don't argue with it. They arrived with 2 boxes and a bag of maternity clothes I hadn't asked for. I thanked the boxes and pointed at the bag. No gifts at table, I said. Card voice. Cards okay. She pushed the bag toward me anyway. Soft smile. Weaponized nostalgia. I nodded to the host. He placed the bag behind the counter with a sticky labeled lost and found. We were done in 12 minutes. I wrote the tiny receipt that keeps my week honest. Proof 12:08. Drop-off complete, 2 boxes. Gift bag declined, lost and found. That night, my husband and I did our Friday ritual. Eggs, stupid sitcom, 1 board book read to people who could not yet hear. I opened the envelope at the table because tables turn drama into paper. It had a card with 2 sentences that belonged in a file, not a debate. I'm trying to do better. Thank you for meeting in public. I slid it into a clear sleeve behind the OB note. Spring filed near winter. The family tried 3 more angles over the next week. Triangulation at work. A cousin called the host stand. Tell her family is here. Ray handed them the laminated policy card and returned to seating a 4 top. I logged 1:18 p.m. Third-party drop-in declined. Card used, no contact. Doormat diplomacy. A plant left at my door with a note. No hard feelings. I carried it to front desk hold and requested a log number from non-emergency for left item after unscheduled contact. Paper, not a performance. The welfare check script. 2 officers knocked politely. I slid the CPO copy and last summary under the door and said, "I'm safe, not requesting contact. Please log." They did. I scanned the sticky with the badge numbers and called it Note, welfare check log.pdf, so it would be easy to find if a future judge wanted boring. The muscle built, steady first, then kind. When I did steady, kind had a job instead of a stage. Kind was porch tea with Ms. Lopez after a meeting. Kind was received during quiet hours. Kind was returning the soup jar same day, so we didn't accumulate debt disguised as glass. 2 moments kept me from backsliding into the old sport of explaining. 1. I watched my husband count 20 in his head while a cousin tried to provoke him in the cafe doorway. At 20, he said, "Email purpose plus 2 noon options," and held the door for a stranger instead. That was a sermon no mouth could deliver. 2. The boys, 2 flickers on a black sea, reminded me that bodies can't read transcripts. They can read chemistry. Quiet hours were prenatal care. My timer was a vitamin. My card was a seatbelt. People ask if the meeting fixed anything. No, it framed it. Once framed, it could be filed. Once filed, it could be kept. The next email from my sister's account didn't come from her. It came from a hospital account with a name I recognized from her in-laws. It shouldn't have come at all. The subject line had my DOB in it. A week later, the hospital's privacy office called. Their audit had flagged 17 access attempts on my chart from a login tied to our circle. That belongs to the next chapter, the one where HIPAA stopped being letters on a poster and became teeth. Before we go there, here's the small script I wrote on another index card and taped under SPB. No. And here's the small thing I can do. No to doors, calls, history. Yes to noon, 20, split checks, cards not gifts, forms read aloud, saved me. Might save you. The email arrived like a wrong key in the right lock. Subject, upcoming apt, 0602. My full name plus DOB. It came from a hospital address I recognized from my sister's in-laws. I hadn't given that address to anyone. There were no links in the body, just a single line. "We noticed you were seen yesterday. How are you feeling?" It felt like someone had put their ear to my wall and called it concern. I didn't reply. I screenshotted the message, then opened a blank note and wrote, 25/05/13, 9:12 a.m. Suspicious email. Hospital domain, DOB in subject, no consent to contact. Then I called the number on the back of my insurance card and asked for the hospital's privacy office. "Please don't click anything or respond," the woman said, voice careful and competent. "Forward the email with full headers to privacyhospital.org. We'll open an investigation and issue you an incident number." She gave me the number. I wrote it twice, note plus sticky, because adrenaline is a thief. I also asked for things I didn't know to ask for until therapy, and 2 good nurses taught me. A privacy audit, who accessed what, when. An accounting of disclosures, AOD, a confidential communications request, send notices to a different address. And a restriction request, tighten who can see what. "Absolutely," she said. "We'll also place a break the glass flag on your chart. Any access will require justification and will trigger an alert." I hung up and started a mini packet I could live out of. 2025-05-13 email, privacy office, forward headers, PDF, 2025-05-13 note. suspicious email log. PDF 2025-05-13 Q Accounting of Disclosures. PDF 2025-05-13 EQ Confidential Communications. PDF 2025-05 13-tier REQ Restriction Access.pdf. I CC'd myself and my lawyer's folder labeled Proof. Boring names, fast reach. By 3:40 p.m., the privacy officer called back. Our preliminary audit shows 17 accesses to your chart over the past 10 days from one non-care employee's login. She said, "You didn't authorize this person." It wasn't a question. My mouth knew the name before she said it. My sister's sister-in-law, a clerical employee in a clinic under the same hospital umbrella. I sat down because anger makes knees perform stunts. The officer kept her tone steady. Triage for souls. "We've locked your record, pulled the audit trail, and removed the user's access pending investigation. You'll receive a formal letter of findings. This may trigger required breach notification and, depending on intent, referral to law enforcement." She asked me not to post names while they worked. I said I wouldn't, not because anyone earned my silence, but because paperwork's better than posts. She also gave me 2 practical tools that changed the way waiting rooms felt. A check-in password, one word only I or my husband could say. A do not announce name flag. Staff would call me by first initial. I updated my patient portal, new email, new 2FA, new password I didn't reuse anywhere, no auto login. Then I changed my pharmacy to a branch across town where no one knew my last name from Facebook. That night, I wrote a 3-paragraph to myself. Facts, terms, next. Because the internet had opinions, and my twins had cortisol receptors. Facts. Suspicious hospital email. DOB in subject. Privacy Office confirms 17 unauthorized EHR accesses by non-care employee related to extended family. Chart locked. Break the glass. AOD plus audit requested. Investigation open. Incident. Gers. Redacted. Terms. All health communication in portal or at visits. No phone disclosures. New check-in password. Do not announce name. New pharmacy. Quiet hours after any contact. 24. Next, await formal letter. Add to legal folder. Consider police report once letter arrives. Notify OB and HR. FYI. With no action requested. I slept like you sleep when a lock finally clicks. Still shallow, but a little less haunted. The hospital moved fast. Within a week, I received Erstes 2025 05-20 Letter Privacy Findings PDF. Impermissible access to your protected health information PHI occurred on 17 occasions between 05-02-05-12 by employee. Redacted. Disciplinary action has been taken up to and including termination. We reported this incident per law. Mitigation includes account revocation, department retraining, and ongoing monitoring. We regret this breach. TWE 2025-05-20s Audit EHR Access Timestamps CSV Every access time, workstation ID, user role. I printed it so a judge without Wi-Fi could see. 3 2025-05-20 AOD Accounting of Disclosures PDF. Who your info was sent to on purpose. None beyond care. 4. 2025-05-20 Offer. Credit monitoring. PDF. 12 months. More symbolic than useful, but I filed it. I wanted to blast the employee's name across the sun. I didn't. I called Marcus instead. He asked for one PDF, the letter. "This is gold," he said, and I loved him a little for liking boring paper more than drama. We attach it to the restraining order file. It shows pattern, not just a bad day with a cake knife, but ongoing intrusion. I wrote 2 more emails that were really receipts. To OB, subject, FYI, privacy breach, chart locked. Attached the letter, asked that all communications go through the portal. Confirmed password on file. To HR, subject, FYI, healthcare privacy incident, no action requested. Attached letter, stated no impact to schedule, requested that medical appointments remain protected as previously accommodated. Then I built a no gossip, all guards card for the fridge. Portal only. Sabaya. Password at check-in. Do not announce name. No phone disclosures, even to family. New pharmacy, new email, 2FA, quiet hours, 24, after any contact about health. The ethics mattered to me. I don't know all of my sister's diagnoses. I'm not here to pin mental illness to a dartboard. I'm here to say privacy is a door everybody deserves, and tearing the hinges off because you're curious, angry, or scared is not a love language. It's a crime. I wrote that sentence for me as much as for the comment section. The letter changed rooms. At the next appointment, the receptionist smiled but didn't say my name. She asked for the password and lowered her voice like kindness has volume control. A medical assistant whispered, "We switched you to private board. Your room shows as occupied without your name." I exhaled a small decade. The letter also changed court. When we expanded the temporary restraining order motion, Marcus stapled the privacy letter behind the threat transcript and the doorbell logs. Pattern of harassment, he wrote. Judges like patterns. They're map people. What I felt versus what I filed that week. Felt. Post their name, cleanse the internet with flame. Filed. Letter privacy findings .pdf. Audit EHR access timestamps. CSV and a new rule card by the fridge. Felt. Someone looked at my body like a story. I am dirty with it. Filed, portal only, password, do not announce, new pharmacy. Bodies are chemistry, not content. Felt. I have to warn everyone and explain everything. Filed, 2 FYIs, OBHR. 1 digest to myself. Subject, proof, weekly digest, 05/13/05/20. Privacy breach, added, letter privacy findings, .pdf, AOD, PDF. Diet. SV. Terms, portal only, password, do not announce. Quiet hours, 24. Next, attach to TRO, reduce exposure, sleep. I also added 3 tiny practices that helped more than any speech. 1. Alias at check-in. First initial plus last initial. My name stayed mine. 2. Received rule with health staff. During quiet hours, they could send received and clinic reminders, but all results waited for my windows. 3. Block and bless. If anyone outside care asked about my health, I pasted, "Thanks for caring. I keep health details private. I'm scheduled." Then I set my phone under a towel for 10 minutes and drank water. On day 10 of the investigation, the privacy office called again. "We concluded malice, not a misclick," the officer said, voice both sad and firm. "We terminated the employee and referred the case to law enforcement under our policy." She didn't name who had been told what. She didn't have to. Enough had been said in letterhead. I didn't celebrate. I stacked Tuesday. I scanned the envelope, filed the PDFs, and walked to Ms. Lopez's with a clean jar and the kind of gratitude that doesn't ask to be seen. On her porch, I asked the question that made me feel 12. How do I go back to regular after someone read my chart like a blog? She stirred soup and said, You don't go back. You go small. Small is the size of real. So I did small. I baked the twins a pancake the size of my palm and didn't photograph it. I read the same board book twice because repetition is love in a hat. I set the porch light to dusk and watched it obey. 2 nights later, the privacy letter did something I didn't expect. It made a stranger angry. At 3:18 a.m., headlights idled under our window. A car door clicked. Footsteps paused. The peephole showed no one. The hallway camera caught a familiar sedan looping the block. Plate I knew from a backyard with a cake. I pulled the folder, wrote the time, and felt my heart climb that little paper staircase my OB had drawn. That's the next chapter. Stalking math, times, plates, directions, the difference between a feeling and a log, and how I turned 3 a.m. into exhibits and sleep again. At 3:18 a.m., the street below my window glowed the wrong kind of bright. Headlights idling, then clicking off, then gliding slow like a hand over a wall. A car door opened. Footsteps paused. The peephole showed no one. The hallway camera across from the elevator captured a sedan doing a sleepy loop. The plate matched the pattern I knew from a backyard with a cake. State sticker, last 4 digits, like a nursery rhyme I didn't want stuck in my head. My body remembered how to sprint without moving. I wanted to fling the door open and perform safety. Instead, I did the thing boring women do who get to keep their lives. I wrote a log, 22:25, 05, and 23, 3.18, 3.26 a.m. Sedan, silver, dented, rear left. Plate, state. 47QB, idled Bodegaus, lights on, looped block 3x clockwise. Footsteps outside my door, no knock. Elevator cam caught pass 2 plus 3. I added weather because a judge once told a support group that he trusts people who remember sky, cool, clear, no wind. I recorded my pulse, 98, so I wouldn't confuse feeling with proof later. I called non-emergency, not 911. The door was closed, the lock solid. Kitchen voice. I'm calling to document suspected stalking sock harassment connected to an existing family matter. Car looping our block. Description, partial plate. I'm not requesting contact. Please attach this to case, Jarrier, redacted, and note a request for patrol pass-bys between 2 and 5 a.m. for the next 2 weeks. The operator read back a CAD log number. I wrote it on the note and also on my palm with a dull pencil I keep by the latch because redundancy is love for your future self. At 8 a.m., I emailed the building manager, subject, proof, request, export, hallway cam, 05/23, 3:03:40 a.m. Unit, redacted. Purpose, provide to police. Attorney, please retain footage for 30 days. Export time-stamped MP4 if possible. He replied 9/11, save to secure drive, pick up USB at front desk after 2 p.m. I labeled a clean thumb drive before I brushed my teeth because when you treat evidence like laundry, it gets done. That afternoon, I built a 3 a.m. kit the way other people build diaper caddies. Shoes by the bed, keys hooked to the inside knob, quietly. Phone charger at the outlet nearest the floor, light hidden. Proof folder open to a fresh log sheet and a sticky stack. Thermos of water, because dehydration writes scripts I don't want. Sukkor, soup thawing in the fridge, because post-adrenaline hunger is a trap. I also moved my car to a different block and stuck a note inside the glove compartment that said, "You are parked on Pine facing north. Laugh at me if you want." I have walked out after a night like that and forgotten my own name. The next night, the sedan returned at 3:12. This time, I had structure ready. I slid my phone onto the peephole mount I bought for $12, hit record, and stayed behind wood. I didn't stage a trap. I didn't narrate. I watched the loop, slow roll past the curb, stop by the dumpster, engines of 2 other cars breathing like witnesses. 30 seconds later, a silhouette paused at the wrong door, the one 2 units down. I logged wrong door in bold letters. Men who just happen to be in the neighborhood shouldn't know which doormat has the woven lemons. By day 3, there was a pattern. Odd-numbered nights, 3:08, 3:30, clockwise loops, no knock. Pattern turns feelings into maps. Maps move judges. I met Marcus with the USB, 3-night logs, and the HIPAA breach letter from the hospital. He clicked his pen like percussion. "This is exactly what pattern of harassment looks like," he said. "We'll attach the logs to your TRO petition, ask for expanded terms, no contact, no approach within 500 feet of your home, work, no electronic monitoring or third-party contact. We'll request license plate readers on the route if the judge's clerk has a sense of humor." He grinned. I decided to love him later. He also gave me language for the next non-emergency call, the one I'd inevitably make at 3:17 when the world loped like a predator. "We have a TRO petition pending. This is a documented pattern. See prior CAD logs, numbers. Requesting directed patrol 2 to 5 a.m. And please note partial plate plus color plus dent. If a unit passes now, we have a USB ready with timestamps." I wrote the script on a card and taped it inside the proof folder where my shaking hands would find it faster than my memory. The part of me that had learned to perform safety wanted to call the person I thought was in the car and threaten police like a spell. The kitchen voice part won. I didn't write to them at all. I wrote to systems. Systems speak PDF. 2 women kept me sane that week. Ray said, "Text me your in, out if you're awake," and I'll reply, "Timer, no heroics." Sometimes her reply landed after I was asleep again. It still worked. Ms. Lopez looked out from her porch one night, saw the car glide, and wrote the model and trim on an envelope in perfect teacher cursive. We added Accord LX to the log, like a cherry on a pie that would feed a bail hearing. I also did something very mammal. I switched my bed to the other wall so the window wasn't behind my head. I put a white noise app on a low fan setting and trained my nervous system to accept porch light at dusk as a bedtime bell, not a warning. You cannot spreadsheet your way out of a startle response. You can practice it quieter. By day 6, a friend from the building messaged, "Saw the silver car again, filmed from my balcony." I asked her for the file and to narrate nothing, just time, loop, direction. I don't need color commentary in my exhibits. I need angles. Day 8 woke loud. My doorbell rang in the afternoon, which meant the script wanted daylight to legitimize itself. I didn't open. A male voice tried reasonable. "We're adults. Can we talk for 5 minutes?" I gave the sentence through wood that has moved mountains for me. Public, noon, 20 minutes, split check, no history, email, purpose, plus 2 options. He called me a coward. I said one word I'd practiced, received. Then I entered quiet hours, 24, because I refused to litigate adrenaline with thumbs. That night, the sedan looped again. A unit rolled through at 3:24 and paused long enough to remind me my address lives on a map, not in a story. I wrote patrol past 3:24, sedan fled southbound, and slept 3 hours I would not have had if I'd gone on the porch to win a debate with headlights. What I felt versus what I filed that week felt, go outside and scare them off. Filed, stayed behind wood, recorded, called non-emergency, logged CAD, requested patrol. Felt, blow up their phone with threats. Filed, wrote to systems, building manager, privacy office, attorney, attached USB and logs. Felt, post their plate and crowdsource justice. Filed, preserved evidence, did not contaminate potential case with vigilante internet. Felt, this will never end. Filed, pattern chart, odd nights, 308, 330, clockwise. Model, gear trim, partial plate. Judges love boring. The USB mattered more than my fear. Marcus filed an amended TRO with baby shower threat transcript. If I lose my baby. Doorbell logs, HIPAA breach letter, pattern, hallcam clips with timestamps. My 3 a.m. log chart, simple grid, dates across top, check marks where loops occurred, a note where patrols passed. The hearing didn't happen that week. Courts move like geology. But 2 days after we filed, my building manager taped a notice near the elevator. Security patrols added 2 to 5 a.m. Hallway recording retained 60 days. My nervous system smiled in shy. I also changed one thing on my terms card in pencil. Added no doorstep drop-offs. Use front desk. I notified family in writing that any items left at my door would be turned over to the desk. No thoughtful plants, no guilt grenades wrapped in tissue. Cards only, handed at noon. There was one slip. On day 9, I hovered over the reply button to a cousin who posted a photo of a silver sedan with the caption, "Just saying." My husband saw my thumb poised like a trigger and said, "What would noon you do?" Noon. Me closed the app, set a timer for 10, drank water, and sent nothing. Sometimes the bravest thing you do is boring. By day 12, the loops stopped. Maybe the patrols spooked him. Maybe a grown-up in their circle finally said no. Maybe the world found a new plot. I didn't throw a party. I stacked Tuesday, folded towels, answered email inside my windows, 8-6, read 2 pages of a board book to 2 people who knew nothing about headlights or CAD logs. I slept with the porch light at dusk and woke to bird instead of engines. I cried at a cereal commercial and considered that evidence my body was beginning to be fed again. Here's the thing I wish someone had handed me earlier. Bravado is loud and short. Boring is quiet and long. Boring wins. Judges, nurses, and landlords all speak boring. My 3 a.m. plan wasn't dramatic, and it worked. Log, call, clip, file, sleep. The next chapter wasn't about cars. It was about court. The suit she filed to punish the camera, the counterclaim Marcus filed with paper teeth, and the weird relief of hearing a judge say, "sustained," when someone tried to drag history into a room built for facts. Court didn't arrive as a gavel. It arrived as a PDF at 7:06 a.m. with my coffee. Complaint. Defamation. IIED. My sister had filed suit. The document read like a screenplay that forgot cameras also capture sound. According to the complaint, I had sabotaged a celebration, fabricated threats, and weaponized social media to harm her. There were screenshots of comments from strangers and 3 photos of me mid-blink. Feelings in a blazer. I forwarded it to Marcus with 2 words we'd practiced. Received, attached. He replied, "Breathe, will answer and counter." Within 48 hours, he filed an answer denying the allegations, plus a counterclaim for assault and threats, and a motion for a temporary restraining order, TRO. No contact directly or indirectly, no approach within 500 feet of my home or work, and no third-party messages or doorstep diplomacy. He also stapled a 1-page exhibit that was better than any speech I could give. My terms card. Judges love rules people actually keep, he'd said. It shows you're not here for a show. You're here for order. We met at his office to prep. No monologues, maps. He asked me to bring 6 exhibits that were boring enough to win. I arrived with a rolling folder and put them on the table like place settings. On. Exhibit A, baby shower, video plus transcript. 2025-05-11, video baby shower threat. Move with a line-by-line transcript and time code. This is my day. If I lose my baby, I'll make sure you lose yours. 2. Exhibit B, OB notes, stress precautions, plus work accommodation, 2025-05-12 OB note. Stress precautions, PDF plus work accommodation.tf. The paper that said quiet hours, no confrontation, written only. 3. Exhibit C, non-emergency and doorbell logs. 2025-05-12 note out doorbell logs.pdf with CAD numbers and times. My SPB said through wood, dates, and door not opened. 4. Exhibit D, HIPAA breach letter plus audit. 2025-05-20 cure letter privacy findings, PDF and audit EHR access timestamps, DCSV 17 unauthorized chart peeks by a relative in-law. Pattern, not gossip. Sankey, Exhibit A, 3 a.m. patrol pack. 2025-05-23 USB hall cam clips. .mp4 log 3 a.m. loops chart.pdf odd night loops plate partial clockwise passes and the night the patrol car rolled through. 6. Exhibit F, meeting summaries plus terms card. 2025-05-15 email summary V2 PDF, the cafe check-in template, and my index cards, SPB plus quiet rule. Marcus smiled the way a person does when the math checks. Court likes boring, he said again. We'll walk the judge, timeline, pattern, policy. You'll answer only what's asked. No history. Kitchen voice. I wore a jacket that made me feel like a clipboard's grew sleeves and set my timer on mute to remind my lungs to breathe every 5 minutes. The courtroom smelled like climate control and wood polish. My sister arrived in a cardigan that made her look like a study in innocence. Her attorney radiated performer. When the judge called our case, the other side opened with feelings. How I had weaponized audiences, how a private family dispute had become public persecution. They showed a collage of comments without dates or sources and a screenshot of a stranger calling me an angel. It looked like the internet, not a record. Marcus stood and handed up Exhibit A. We'll begin with what happened, he said, and pressed play. The room didn't breathe when, if I lose my baby, hit the speakers. Then he turned to the transcript so the words could live on paper, not on a tone. We asked the court to focus on statements and conduct, not sentiment, he said. We have a timeline. He moved like a metronome. Exhibit C, doorbell logs, CAD numbers, no door opened. SPB said once, not a duet. Exhibit B, OB letters, avoid confrontation, written only, quiet hours. Medicine asked, I obeyed. Exhibit E, hallway cam clip, 3:18 a.m. Loops, odd night pattern, request for patrol. Exhibit D, HIPAA letter and audit. 17 accesses by non-care staff tied to their circle. Not a bad day, pattern. Exhibit F, 3-paragraph meeting summary. Public, noon, 20. Split check, no history. Micro rule, received, allowed during quiet hours. The judge interrupted only once to ask Marcus why a medical letter belonged in a TRO hearing. He answered like a lawyer who likes women to keep breathing. Because risk travels with contact, Your Honor. Medical advice was to reduce contact and keep it written. She did. We're asking the court to reinforce the plan that is already working. My sister's attorney tried to argue defamation, waving a printout of comments as if strangers on the internet were my publicists. Marcus asked one question. Did my client post anything about your client? The answer, under oath, was no. Then the court lacks an actionable publication by my client, Marcus said, and we ask that portion be denied or reserved for another day. He didn't grandstand. He sorted. When it was my turn to speak, I did what we rehearsed. Yes, no, then one sentence. Yes, I left immediately. No, I did not open the door to anyone after. Yes, I asked people to email Purpose Plus 2 noon options. No, I did not make public posts about her. Yes, I'm 6 weeks pregnant with twins. No, I don't want to win the internet. Yes, I want a schedule. The judge leaned back and did the chin tug thing people do when they're choosing structure over spectacle. Temporary restraining order granted, she said, slow and clear, as if teaching the words to the room. No contact directly or indirectly. No approach within 500 feet of residence and workplace. No third-party contact. No electronic harassment. Surrender of any weapons to the sheriff within 24 hours. She looked at my sister. Ma'am, that includes posts intended to incite others. Then to Marcus, set this for 30 days out for the permanent order hearing. I exhaled for the first time in a month. It didn't fix the internet. It hired a guard for my porch. Service happened that afternoon. At 7:42 p.m., my phone buzzed with a group text screenshot from a cousin. She thinks a piece of paper makes her safe. Someone go knock anyway. The TRO included no contact through third parties. Marcus forwarded the screenshot to the case officer. Patrol visited the sender and issued a warning. 2 hours later, my mother showed up at my door anyway, finger on the bell, saying she wasn't part of the order. The officers who responded explained indirect contact and asked her to leave. She refused. They cited her for trespass and interference and walked her downstairs while I sat on my kitchen floor with my hands under my thighs so I wouldn't open the door and turn dignity into a duet. It wasn't the story I wanted for us. It was the line the room needed. The next morning, I filed a 3-paragraph summary and added 2 small documents. 2025-06-01 Order Tro Temporary.pdf, stamped, signed. 2025-06-01 Service Proof.pdf, because orders don't count until paper touches hands. Then I did laundry. I'm not being cute. I wanted my body to know that ordinary still existed under the architecture of court. My sister's civil suit didn't vanish with the TRO, but it deflated. Marcus filed a motion to dismiss the defamation claim for failure to state a publication by me, or, in the alternative, to stay the civil matter pending the protective order hearing. He attached the OB letters, the HIPAA findings, and the timeline with the baby shower threat at the top. The other side sent a settlement feeler disguised as a concern. We didn't negotiate with weather. We kept paper. What I felt versus what I filed that week. Felt. Tell the judge my whole childhood so she understands. Filed 6 exhibits, yes, no, plus 1 sentence. Timeline, not testimony. Felt. Post the TRO with a victory caption. Filed. Order Tro Temporary.pdf in proof. Told only the people who help me keep windows and quiet hours. Felt. Open the door to show I'm not cruel. Filed. Door stayed closed. Officers explained. Citation issued. I kept my kitchen voice. Felt. Fight the defamation suit on Instagram. Filed. Motion to dismiss Sachak stay with exhibits that speak boring. Here's the small, unsatisfying truth that saved my cortisol. Court liked my folders more than my feelings. Every time I wanted to monologue, I asked, "Does this become a PDF?" If not, I put it in a bowl of soup and ate it instead. I wish the chapter ended there. It didn't. Stress piles, even when orders hold. 2 weeks later, after a long day of being brave in tiny ways, my abdomen tightened like a fist. The on-call nurse said, "Hydrate and lie on your left, then come in if it doesn't ease." It didn't ease. Bed rest began. And from a hospital bed that smelled like lemon and discipline, I learned that some people will try to breach a ward the way they breach a boundary, with a smile, a gift bag, or once, a knife. That's the next room. Lockdown at L&D, why I kept my policy card on the bedside tray, and how a quiet nurse taught me to measure courage in minutes instead of monologues. The first contraction didn't feel like TV. It felt like a belt 2 notches tighter than my body could negotiate. I lay on my left side with a timer on my phone and watched the minutes act like they had opinions. 7:12, 7:21, 7:29. The on-call nurse said the sentence that makes adults move. "Come in to be monitored. Bring your folder." We checked into labor and delivery at 8:06 p.m. under the password the privacy office had set on my chart. The clerk didn't say my name, first initial only, and handed me a band that felt like a truce. A nurse placed 2 warm circles on my stomach. Paper started whispering my son's drumbeats. I cried once, quietly, not from pain, from the sound of ordinary doing its job while the rest of my life auditioned for content. Contractions were irritable uterus, not labor. The doctor used words like hydrate, rest, and watch, then wrote activity restriction on the whiteboard, like a teacher who wanted me to pass. Bed rest, not the fairy tale kind, began. I taped my policy card to the tray table in big block letters. Visitors, none. Password only. Updates, portal or at bedside. No phone updates to family. Identify. Ask my password before any procedure. Communication, in writing for contentious matters. Quiet hours, 24, after any hard contact. The charge nurse smiled like she'd been waiting to see a patient do her paperwork. "We'll put you on private board," she said. "No one sees your name on the census. Staff won't announce it at the desk." She added a red banner, "Break the glass," so any access would ask why first. The first 2 nights were boring in the benevolent way medicine can be. The monitor hiccuped. I drank water like it was my job. A volunteer left a board book. I read 2 pages aloud to people the size of commas. I practiced sleeping with the sound of other women's lives happening down the hall, monitors, murmurs, a laugh that made me love strangers for being human. On night 3, the nurse brought a visitor log to sign because the hospital also speaks paper. We left it blank except for husband only and password required. I texted Ms. Lopez, on bed rest, soup craving, but nurse says no outside food. Send prayers shaped like saltines. She replied, prayer delivered. I believed her more than I believed half my own thoughts. At 10:14 a.m. the next morning, the unit clerk called my room. A woman in the lobby says she's your aunt. She has a gift bag and says, no hard feelings. I used my index card voice. No visitors. Card only. Please place it at the front desk, lost and found. The clerk didn't sigh. She said, got it. Then she added, we'll note the time. I wrote it too. Proof 10:14. Attempted visitor, claimed aunt with gift bag, diverted to front desk, no contact. At 1:06 p.m., the clerk called again, softer. Same woman came back with a friend. They keep asking if the twin girl is okay. Twin girl. Someone had been in my chart, or they had listened where they shouldn't. Please ask security to escort them out. I said, and gave her the incident number from the HIPAA letter. I added a line to my bedside card. If lobby contact recurs, security plus incident log. Policy makes kind possible. That evening, my husband went home to shower and feed the cat. The unit quieted in the way hospitals do when son decides to be someone else's problem. At 7:32 p.m., my door cracked open 2 inches, and a voice that practiced reasonable said, "Just me, Aunt Carrie. I'll be quick." My nurse's hand, small, certain, closed the door and clicked the latch. "We ask for passwords at the desk," she said, through wood. "Please return there." 5 minutes later, the desk phone rang. The clerk's voice was flat, the way professionals keep rooms safe. Security is escorting 2 women out. One became agitated when asked for the password. "We are moving to limited access for the floor. Badge only." At 7:51, the unit slipped into a drill I didn't know it had. Code word, doors shut, a tone that makes muscles listen. "Hold and secure," the intercom said. "No entry/exit until cleared." I heard footsteps hurry, but never run. I did not hear my name. Bless everyone who learned that lesson. Later, in the report, I would read that a woman had produced a folding knife at the visitor desk. Small, cheap, enough to turn kindness into policy. Security moved. Police came. No one was hurt. They arrested her for menacing and criminal trespass. The paperwork didn't say her name. It said behavior. That's what I needed. A room that speaks conduct, not a soap opera. Inside my room, my nurse turned my monitor back on and smoothed the paper like a blanket. She didn't ask me to process. She said, "Breathe in 4, out 6. I obeyed. Then she said, "Quiet hours start now," and put a sign on my door that looked like a "Do not disturb you, get to keep." The social worker joined us at 9:10 with a clipboard that belonged in my living room. "We'll file a no trespass order with hospital security," she said, "and add a no information flag on your account. If anyone calls asking for updates, even with the right last name, we say, 'We have no patient by that name. Do you want a police victim advocate to visit tomorrow?'" I said yes, because future me loves a card in her wallet more than a story. I wrote my 3 paragraphs from the hospital bed with the tone HR trusts. Facts. 7:32. Attempted entry without password. 7:37 desk confrontation. 7:51 hold and secure. Knife brandished at desk. Security, police responded. Arrest, no injury. Fetal monitoring stable. Terms: no visitors. Password, no info. Portal only. Hold and secure returns to normal at 8:23. Quiet hours, 24, begin. Next, attach security incident report. Numbers 2 legal folder. Notify attorney. Request copy of trespass order. Schedule victim advocate. I named the file like a stranger needed to find it in 30 seconds. 22.5 North 6, 08, note RL&D, hold and secure, knife at desk, PDF. I slept in half hours, which is still sleep. The babies thudded like small shoes in a dryer. In the morning, the security supervisor brought a 1-page letter, notice of restriction and trespass, with a case number and a line that said any presence on hospital property would result in arrest. It wasn't vengeful, it was geometry, lines so doors can exist. My mother texted, "Is she okay?" At 9:03 a.m., I typed received and put my phone under a towel. Quiet hours were not a punishment. They were medicine. A detective stopped by with the sort of calm that wears a badge because it fits. He took my statement in present tense and asked for my HIPAA letter copy. Pattern matters to prosecutors. He told me they'd booked the woman and notified mental health court for screening. He did not ask me to narrate history. He asked for times. I gave them. I want to say this without making anyone into a villain they didn't sign up to be. Mental illness lives in my family and in our zip code. It deserves care, not shame. Threats live in my family, too. They deserve paper and consequences. Two things can be true. The hospital treated both. Bed rest got stricter after the lockdown. Bathroom only, no laps around the unit, hydration on schedule like church. A lactation nurse stuck her head in, too early for her job, just right for mine, and said, "We measure everything in minutes here. 10 minutes of calm is medicine." I taped that to the card. At 4:22 p.m., while I practiced the out 6 part of breathing, every phone in the unit sang the same metallic chorus. Amber Alert. A child's name I knew from our family threads flashed on my screen. Delphine, my sister's baby. Brown sedan. Plate. Last seen near a mall I'd taken a bus to in high school. My body did the strangest thing. It went still. I whispered, "Let her be found." And the nurse squeezed my foot through the blanket like she approved of prayer with no comments. I did not text anyone. I did not post anything. I wrote one sentence in my log, so later I would remember what belonged to me and what didn't. Proof 422, Amber Alert, Delphine. No action, prayer only. 2 hours later, the alert cleared. Police had found the car, the baby uninjured, father in custody. The nurse read the update off a staff email and nodded once like the world had chosen a smaller fire. I cried into the scratchy pillowcase for everyone's children, including mine. That night, my OB came in with a face that didn't lie. "We'll keep you at the hospital," she said. "Stress stacks. Let us carry it with you." She adjusted my meds by a hair and wrote "reduce inputs" on the board. I took that as a prescription. No social, no group texts, only portal. If the world needed a statement from me, the pinned comment on my last video already had it. I keep this in writing with the people involved and, if needed, the court. I won't discuss family history online. I'm focused on health and safety. What I felt versus what I filed that week. Felt. Explain in a post so no one thinks I'm cruel. Filed. Notice. Trespass. PDF. Note. LD. Holden. Secure. PDF. And a 3-paragraph summary. No post. Felt. Answer every "Are you okay?" with a story. Filed. Received during quiet hours. Portal updates only. Staff used password. Felt. Turn the Amber Alert into a victory lap. Filed. Prayer, then silence. Later, one line in my log. Felt. I'm failing if I'm scared. Filed. 10-minute calm blocks. Nurse approved. Courage measured in minutes, not monologues. Bed rest taught me that safety is often a building full of women who know how to close doors without slamming them. It taught me my policy card belonged on a bed tray as much as a front door. It taught me that some victories don't look like winning. They look like a nurse tapping the monitor and saying, "Both babies look chill." We didn't leave with a bow. We left with a plan, finished the week inpatient, transfer to home rest if the numbers stayed boring, court in 12 days for the permanent order, and a phone that would stay face down unless a nurse put it in my hand. In the next chapter, the world outside the hospital decided to scream again. Papers filed, attorneys posturing, a judge who preferred maps to memoirs. Inside, I kept counting minutes and writing proof at the top of my pages like a spell. The Amber Alert ended the way alarms should. Found, alive, paper. By 6:34 p.m., a detective told the nurse that officers had located the sedan in a mall lot. Baby Delphine was uninjured. Her father, my sister's husband, whose name I hadn't spoken on camera, was in custody. The unit exhaled so quietly, I only heard it in the way the monitor paper stopped trying to keep up with my heart. I didn't post a victory. I wrote a line. Proof 634, Amber Alert cleared. Infant safe, father detained, no statement. I kept it small because babies are not plot points. I also kept it small because I've learned that the second storm arrives while you're still celebrating the first. It arrived as family court. At 9:20 p.m., the social worker slipped in with a clipboard and a voice that never made me feel like homework. When there's an Amber Alert, she said, CPS and family court wake up fast. You'll hear terms like temporary custody, supervised visitation, guardian ad litem. You don't need to be in those rooms unless subpoenaed, but you'll hear the thunder. She handed me a one-pager titled, What Happens Next? Bullet points, boxes to check, a line that said, no social media posts involving minors. I initialed it like a vow. At 10:07, my phone lit with a cousin's text shaped like a trap. So, you happy now? The temptation to sermonize surged like a hot flash. I typed received and slid the phone under a towel. Quiet hours. I read 2 pages of a board book to 2 commas and let someone else be loud. Morning brought lawyers, not mine, theirs. A family attorney, not the defamation guy, filed an emergency motion for temporary custody on my sister's behalf, painting her as stable and me as a puppet master who'd turned the internet on their family. Attached, a photo of me laughing at a picnic from 6 months ago as if mirth were a crime scene. Marcus replied with receipts, the TRO, the HIPAA breach letter, my doorbell logs, and a compact thing judges love, a timeline with dates, times, and verbs. We weren't parties in that case, but our paper became weather. Family court judges are map people. They want boring. Marcus emailed their clerk. Subject, FYI to court. Protective order. Documented pattern of harassment. Related matter. Attached, TRO HIPAA findings, non-emergency CAD logs, hallway cam timestamps, meeting summaries. Patient, pregnant with twins, remains on activity restriction, requests minimal contact, communication in writing only. He never called my sister a name. He named conduct. Judges noticed the difference. Around lunch, a guardian ad litem, L, court appointed for Delphine, left a message asking to speak briefly about family history. Marcus called back and said what I've learned to say. We don't do history. We do documents. We'll send the timeline and relevant orders. The gal thanked him in a tone that sounded like a blessing for everyone's cortisol. While the court worked, the internet tried to turn a child into content. A mom group posted a collage. One photo of the alert, one of my sister from a filtered live months earlier, one of me mid-blink. Comments arrived like gnats. Sis set him up. She deserved it. Poor baby. Only the last one mattered. I blocked the thread and wrote a sentence to sit on my tongue when strangers demanded a take. I don't discuss minors or health online. I'm keeping this in writing with the people involved and, if needed, the court. From the hospital, I could do 3 things and no more. 1. Stay mammal. Hydrate. Nap. Protein. Breathe. 4 in, 6 out. Read 2 pages to 2 commas. 2. Feed the folder. Add the gal request, the Amber clearance time, and the line no social posts to 2025-06-08. Note LLND Amber Aftermath. PDF. 3. Refuse the stage. Received. Purpose. Plus. 2. Noon options. Public. Noon. 20. Then quiet hours. In the afternoon, a detective returned with a question that was not about feelings. Will you provide any messages where family members discussed watching or following you? He was building pattern. Marcus handed him a clean packet. 2025-05-23, log, 3 a.m., loops, chart.pdf, 2025-05-23, USB, Hallcam, clips, MP4. 2025-05-12, note, doorbell logs.pdf, 2025-05-20, letter privacy findings, PDF, no sermons, just shape. By day 2, post-alert, the family attorney filed a motion blaming online harassment for pushing a father to desperation. The sentence tried to turn cause into excuse. Marcus answered with a paragraph I wanted to embroider. Desperation is not a legal defense to kidnapping. Our filings ask only for contact to be limited, written, and public. The child's welfare, not anyone's audience, is the court's interest. I taped that sentence to my tray table under, "You are not the emergency. You are the schedule." Some lines teach your body before they change your mind. The ethics kept me awake. I've told you I am nobody's saint. I started this story with petty. But when a baby's name hit my phone as an alert, my side lost its usefulness. There was only a child who didn't fill out a form to be born. My quiet rule became a moral. No photos of minors, no gloating when adults get cuffed, no fondling of tragedy for clout. If anyone asked in DMs, I pasted. Thanks for caring. I don't discuss minors or health online. I'm focusing on safety and schedule. Tuesday, not thunder. Then I closed the app and ate applesauce like a sacrament. Family court's first orders landed on my tray at 4:11 p.m. the next day. The judge assigned temporary custody to the safest available caregiver in Delphine's world. Not my sister, not her father. Ordered supervised visitation for both parents, appointed the gal, and explicitly barred social media discussion of the case by either side. My name never appeared. My paper did. Marcus smiled small. "We let conduct speak," he said. It spoke. My mother texted, "This is your fault." Grief can't read orders. I typed received and turned my phone face down because quiet hours were not optional in a body working for two. That week held 2 images at once. A baby's photo taped to a courthouse file and my twins' heartbeats shushing paper at my bedside. The contrast kept me honest. I wanted the best legal outcome, and I wanted to be the kind of mother who didn't meat grind other people's children into content. So I wrote a rule card just for me. No posts about minors, no victory laps about arrests, no I told you so in DMs, portal-only health updates, staff password, no information, flag. Quiet hours, 24, after any court development. I filed it as 2025-06, 10, card due minor ethics.pdf, and taped a copy on my laptop like a seatbelt. 2 practical things also changed in our house while I was still impatient. Jabi. We found a pediatrician and asked 3 questions that kept my spine straight. What do you do when a family member tries to access charts? Do you offer alias hoc do not announce flags? How do you handle portal permissions for twins? The office answered like they'd taken a class in me. We scheduled a newborn appointment for a date that assumed optimism and built guardrails anyway. We rented a P.O. box and called it Boring Magic. Packages, cards, legal mail. There, not the doorstep. I added a line to my terms card. No doorstep items. P.O. box only. Then I emailed the family that line and nothing else. On day 5 after the alert, a new notice arrived from civil court. The judge on our defamation TRO matter recused for conflict. Her husband sat on a board with someone in their circle. Cases like to tangle. Our file moved to a judge with a reputation for timelines and teeth. He bundled everything, my TRO, their civil complaint, and any criminal matters that rhymed into a status conference 2 weeks out. He likes exhibits, Marcus said. He'll ask for dates, video, and paper. He won't eat history. That's when something unexpected fell out of the sky, technically out of a discovery packet. A spiral-bound notebook seized from my sister's car, 4 pages labeled Destroy Sarah, my name, with bullet points that read like a storyboard for rooms I'd already bled in. It didn't make me feel vindicated. It made me feel like maps had existed the whole time. I had just started drawing mine later. Marcus didn't gloat. He paged through and said, "We submit a hearsay-proof summary and staple this behind it." Boring, not cinematic. I wanted to call my mother and read the notebook out loud like a spell that would break something open. I didn't. Quiet hours. I took a shower with the hospital's Honest soap and asked the nurse to move my policy card 1 inch to the right so the edge sat where my eyes rested when the monitor ticked. Tiny is a valid size of help. What I felt versus what I filed that week. Felt, post, she's safe, with a halo effect. Filed, note, dull, L&D, amber, aftermath.pdf, and no social. Felt, tell the gal every story I've swallowed. Filed, timeline plus orders, no memoir, let conduct talk. Felt, dance on the grave of a bad decision. Filed, ethics card, no posts about minors. Applesauce instead of applause. Felt, this is all my fault, not my fault. Filed, sleep, water, protein, breathing. Twins monitors stayed boring. A week later, I left the hospital with instructions like a recipe card and the doorbell of my life temporarily silenced by orders. The porch light clicked on at dusk, as if it had memorized me. Court dates lined my calendar like fence posts. I felt soft inside the places I used to be loud. That softness wasn't weakness. It was policy finally landing in my bones. Next came the judge, who didn't eat history, the consolidated hearing where our paper read better than anyone's performance. And the moment a gavel, a pen, wrote the line my porch had been trying to hold for a year. The notice hit my inbox at 8:17 a.m., like a polite earthquake. Assigned judge recused due to potential conflict. Matter is reassigned. Marcus called before I could Google the new name. Good news, he said. Your new judge is a timeline and teeth person. He likes dates, video, and orders. He does not snack on history. My cortisol put down its megaphone and picked up a pen. A week later, we stood in a courtroom that smelled like wood polish and calendars. The clerk stacked 3 files with the gravity of a wedding cake. 1, my TRO going permanent. 2, their defamation IED complaint. 3, related criminal matters. Trespass menacing from the hospital, plus anything the prosecutor tied to the HIPAA breach. The judge looked at both tables and said the sentence I wanted embroidered on a blanket. We are here for conduct, not memoir. Marcus had prepped me like a person who trusts boring. 3 tabs, he'd said the night before, drawing boxes on a yellow pad, timeline, pattern, policy. He slid my binder across the table with Post-its, neat enough to make librarians purr. Tab 1, timeline, what happened? 2025-05-11, video, baby shower, threat. Move plus transcript with time codes. This is my day. If I lose my baby, I'll make sure you lose yours. 2025-05-12, note. Doorbell logs.pdf. CAD numbers, door not opened, SPB said once. 2025-05-23 USB Hallcam clips .mp4 3 a.m. loops plus log 3 a.m. loops chart.pef odd nights 3/08/3/30 2025-06-08 note LD hold end secure knife at desk PDF hospital lockdown trespass letter 2025-06-08 note L&D Amber aftermath PDF alert cleared no post tab 2 pattern not a bad day 2025-05-20s letter privacy findings PDF plus audit EHR access timestamps CSV 17 unauthorized chart peaks 2025-05-15 email summary v2.pdf public noon 20 meeting no history quiet hours 2025-06-01 service proof.pdf because paper doesn't count till it touches hands tab 3 policy what keeps us 2025-05-12 OB note stress precautions PDF plus work accommodation but DF written only quiet hours avoid confrontation index cards SPB quiet rule 24 terms public noon 20 split check no doorstep cards only PO box hospital trespass notice no information flag check-in password my sister's side went first. Their attorney performed injury and image, screenshots of strangers' comments, a collage of me mid-blink, a story about humiliation. The judge held up a hand. Did the defendant publish statements about your client? He asked. Not that we can prove, the attorney said, hedging. But her audience? The judge cut him off without raising his voice. We don't try the internet. We try parties. Marcus stood like a person who doesn't need adjectives. We'll start with what happened, he said, and played Exhibit A. The room heard the threat, flat and unromantic, in the way truth sounds when it isn't thirsty. He handed up the transcript. Next, log entries attached to CAD numbers. Door remained closed. Client used a one-sentence SPB. He moved the court through the hall cam clips, the odd night grid, the HIPAA letter. This is pattern, he said, not a bad day. He finished with policy, OB notes, quiet rule, meeting summaries, the hospital's trespass letter. She didn't escalate, he said. She shrunk contact to written only and public noon 20. Then came the notebook, a spiral-bound garage store kind, seized from the back seat during the menacing arrest. 4 pages were labeled in block letters, Destroy Sarah. The entries read like a storyboard I didn't want to be in. Announce before she can announce. Get her medical info. Ask SIL. Knife? Escalate if she shows up. Make internet say she's crazy. I didn't swallow vindication. I swallowed air. Marcus didn't wave it like a flag. He offered a hearsay-proof summary and asked the court to consider it only for intent pattern. The judge admitted it for that limited purpose and slid it under pattern with 2 fingers like he recognized maps. Opposing counsel tried one more lane, defamation. She ruined my client's reputation, he said. Voice pitched for a balcony the courtroom didn't have. Your client threatened a pregnant woman on video, the judge said, looking at the screen, not at us. Any claim about online comments is reserved. Today is about contact. When it was my turn, I stayed where kitchen voice lives. Yes, no. 1 sentence. Yes, I left immediately. No, I didn't open the door after. Yes, I use Windows 8 and a 6. No, I don't discuss minors or health online. Yes, I want a schedule. No, I don't want a stage. The judge ruled without theater. The temporary order becomes permanent for 24 months, he said, and read conditions like measurements on a recipe card. No contact, direct or indirect. 500 feet from home, work, hospital. No third party or electronic harassment. No surveillance, physical or digital. No doorstep items. Deliver to front desk or P.O. box only. No social media posts naming the defendant or discussing her pregnancy, minors, surrender of any weapons within 24 hours, proof of compliance filed within 48, and mental health evaluation with proof of appointment. He attached the hospital's trespass order by reference. Violation is contempt, he said, and I am available. On the defamation case, he didn't give the internet the show it wanted. He stayed discovery on those claims pending the protective order period and invited a narrowed refiling if counsel could plead actual publication by me, not screenshots of strangers. Take your grievances to the timeline, he said. Bring me dates, words, and who said them. He also issued 2 instructions that made the room breathe. 1. All communication between these parties will be written and exchanged through counsel or mutually agreed public, noon, 20-minute meetings for logistics only. 2. No one will discuss this matter at workplaces or medical facilities. Violations will be addressed swiftly. The gavel didn't bang. His pen did. It sounded like stay. Outside the courtroom, Marcus didn't high-five me. He handed me 2 fresh copies of the order and pointed at service. Orders don't count until paper touches hands, he said. By 4 to 10 p.m., the sheriff had served my sister and her husband. A cousin who had sent the "someone go knock anyway" text received a warning from patrol with a photocopy of page 2. Third-party contact prohibited. My mother texted, "So much for family." I typed "received" and went to buy eggs. Ordinary is a spiritual practice. I filed 3 new PDFs the minute I sat down. 2025-06-22. Order. Permanent Protection. Jura 24 Mo. PDF. 2025-06-22. Proof. Service all parties. PDF. 2025-06-22. Card terms. 3. Post order. PDF. Added no doorstep. Front desk or P.O. box only. Then I made soup and returned Ms. Lopez's jar the same day because returning what you borrow is a way to tell your nervous system it lives in a world where loops close. What I felt versus what I filed that week. Felt. Read the Destroy Sarah page aloud on camera. Filed. Summary for intent to pattern only. Let the judge do law, not content. Felt. Celebrate online so people know I'm not a victim. Filed. Order. Permanent Protection. 124 Mo. PDF. Eggs. Sleep. Felt. Explain our whole childhood to make the order feel deserved. Filed. Timeline. Pattern. Policy. Yes. No. Plus 1 sentence. Felt. Keep watching them for the next wrong move. Filed. Quiet hours. 24. For my brain, let systems watch. I watch hydration. 2 things surprised me after the ruling. First, silence. The doorbell slept. The DMs thinned. The sedan stopped looping. Second, grief. For what families sometimes become when attention is a drug and the internet is a dealer. I didn't edit the grief out. I scheduled it. 10 minutes on the porch with tea, no phone, eyes on a maple that didn't ask me for a statement. The judge set a status conference 90 days out to confirm compliance. His words. I put it on the calendar and wrote a tiny line I'd earned the right to believe. Court prefers boring. Be boring. Then life barged back in with a calendar of its own. A twinge became a tightening, became a doctor's face that said, now. We had planned for 40. The twins circled 34. Courage was about to get measured in minutes and incisions, not binders. The morning of the C-section, I tucked my policy card into the hospital bag like a talisman and kissed the porch light switch out of habit. It clicked to dusk, even though we wouldn't be home to see it. The last thing I did before we drove was tape one more sentence to the fridge above the quiet rule. Be gentle in tone and firm in terms. It had carried me through a judge who liked maps and a family who liked movies. It would carry me into a room with blue drapes, bright lights, and two small people who didn't care about courts at all. The morning of the C-section smelled like antiseptic and warm blankets. A nurse clipped a blue bracelet to my wrist and drew a small X on my shoulder where the blood pressure cuff would sit. I tucked my policy card into the side pocket of the hospital bag anyway, habit more than need, and kissed the porch light switch even though we wouldn't be home to see it click to dusk. We had planned for 40 weeks. The twins circled 34 and a handful of days. My OB said the sentence I trusted her to say when it was time. Let's meet your babies today. I asked if we were rushing. She drew a little staircase on the whiteboard, stable, watchful, now, and tapped now. Courage, it turned out, wasn't the rush of a speech. It was consent, initials on a line, and the way my husband's hand didn't leave my shoulder. In pre-op, the anesthetist talked to me like a person and not a procedure. You'll feel pressure, not pain, he said. Tell me any song you want in your head. I picked the sound of Ms. Lopez's porch and pretended a sparrow was doing rounds. The nurse counted instruments like a poet who loved numbers. Blue drapes went up. Time narrowed to a rectangle and a voice near my ear narrating like a calm radio. Spinal in, pressure. You're doing great. Almost there. They were pulled into air 3 minutes apart. No television wails, just wet breaths. A protest like paper tearing. Baby A, vigorous, someone said. Baby B, a little help, someone else answered, and a respiratory tech fitted a soft CPAP bonnet with hands that looked like they'd tuned pianos. I wanted to ask, are they okay? The anesthetist translated my eyes. They're here, he said. That's the biggest thing. I memorized the smallest, the way one foot flexed like a dancer's and the other curled like a comma. They were whisked to NICU, the neonatologist narrating APGARs, waits, SATs. My husband followed with a face that had learned to carry two kinds of fear at once. I lay there while the surgeon stitched a future I would try to grow into. I didn't feel brave. I felt plural. Part woman, part hallway they would travel through for a while. Recovery shrank my world to 4 rules and a pump schedule the lactation nurse printed like choreography. Every 3 hours, pump 15 to 20 minutes. Label with date, due, time. Skin to skin when monitors allow. Kangaroo at least twice daily. Da courteous. Portal messages only for updates. Staff use password. Quiet hours, 24, after any difficult contact. Received, allowed. I stuck the schedule above the sink and wrote the baby's initials like planets on a chart. A and B. We became one long interval. Sleep was a patchwork of half hours. Food was a nurse saying, finish the yogurt, like it was a prescription. The NICU taught me a new species of time. Morning rounds were a circle, parents at the edges, attending in the center. A respiratory therapist said, room air trial, like a benediction the first day Baby B's numbers held. Monitors sang, sometimes they screamed, mostly they were background hum. The first time a beep tumbled toward panic, a nurse, Clara, put her palm on the warmer and said, we look at babies, not numbers. I wrote it down as if I could learn that sentence for my life. Visitors were no. Our password worked. The desk kept our no information flag firm. Someone tried to deliver a gift bag from family. Security placed it at the front desk with the other orphans, a new kind of lost and found. I added a line to our terms and had the social worker clip it to the chart. No doorstep items, no deliveries to room, cards to P.O. box only. At 6 p.m. on day 2, my phone buzzed with a text that wanted to be a fight wearing concern. How dare you keep them from their grandmother? I typed received, put the phone under a towel, and set a timer for 10 the way I had practiced. Then I noted time and sender in the proof folder without adjectives. Quiet hours are a kind of anesthesia for the soul. We made tiny templates so kindness could be repeatable. My husband drafted a 2-line update we could paste to the 3 people we trusted during our windows. Update: A and B are stable today. A working on feeds, B on room air 2 HRs. We're doing skin-to-skin twice and pumping on schedule. No visitors, no photos shared. Next, we'll send the next update tomorrow after lunch. We didn't post anything. We took photos for us and named them like files, not trophies. 2025 06 28 NICU L first Kangaroo Jiapo and 39 06 Ninja Kungut Niku B HIPAA to room air.jpg. In the middle of the night, when screens tempt confession, I scrolled those 2 files the way people pray rosaries. I learned the hospital paper like a new alphabet. Feeding logs, output charts, consent forms for vaccines, SSI numbers to apply for later, the birth certificate worksheet with a blank where we would finally write the names we only said to each other in the dark. We filed everything with names future me would recognize in 30 seconds. We kept copies because NICUs are battlefields of compassion, and misplacing things is part of the fog. A social worker asked gently about home safety for discharge. Orders were holding. Loops at 3 a.m. had stopped. The permanent protection order stood. But safety isn't only legal, it's geography. Ray had already floated an idea weeks ago we were now ready to say out loud. Move. Not as a dramatic escape, as a smaller address that didn't know our porch by heart. Pick a place with ordinary neighbors, Ms. Lopez said when she visited with her standard contraband, prayer shaped like saltines. Ordinary will do half the work. We circled Seattle in pencil. Friends there, work transfer possible, weather the color of a nap. We made a plain list on a folded piece of paper. Hospitals with NICU within 20 minutes. Lease terms that allow month-to-month first 6 months. New pediatrician who can set alias and no announce on charts. Apartment with front desk. For packages, desk rule. A porch that can learn our dusk. Between feeds and kangaroo hours, we opened a P.O. box online and sent ourselves a test card. We live here now on paper. It felt grown and a little silly. It felt like a floor not made of other people's feet. Day 4, Baby B's CPAP came off and stayed off through rounds. Day 5, Baby A managed a full bottle without the DSAT dive that made my lungs forget their job. I wrote 10 minutes calm, Zal medicine on a sticky, and put it over the pump. We were collecting minutes the way kids collect stickers. Our discharge nurse, a woman with biceps like a gym teacher and voice like a lullaby, built us a binder. Med schedule, if any. Follow-ups, PEDs, OB, lactation, social work. Red flags, when to call 911, triage. Who to call for supplies and what to say. Exact words, not feelings. We slid our terms card into the first sleeve, like a permission slip to be ordinary when everyone wanted drama. I had one small grief during those days that surprised me. I wanted my mother to see their fingers, the particular way baby A's brow furrowed like an accountant. I also wanted quiet more than I wanted a moment that would cost us a week. I told the social worker the truth without hating myself for it. For now, I said, cards only. She nodded like she'd heard women do arithmetic before. When discharge dates landed like cautious birds, one twin ready Thursday, the other likely Saturday, the nurse gave us the NICU's version of a graduation speech. You'll still be on timer time. Sleep when you can. Ask for help that has a job. And if anyone demands 5 minutes at your door, use your sentence through wood. We laughed. Then we wrote it down because tired brains forget miracles. The first night home wasn't cinematic. It was lists. The fridge held our quiet rule, 24, and a fresh visitor's card. Visitors. By appointment, public first week, porch or cafe. 20 minutes, no holding until cleared by PED. Gifts, cards only, packages, P.O. box. Updates. We send one after lunch daily. Reply received only. Photos. No social, we share none. Please don't share ours. We texted the card to 3 people with a heart. We didn't text it to people who would argue with wood. The second night home, 2:11 a.m., someone knocked. 3 fast taps, a pause, 3 more. My husband and I stared at each other over 2 plastic bassinets like we were in court again. I said our SPB through wood exactly once, kitchen voice. I'm safe. I meet in public by appointment. I don't argue at the door or on the phone. A male voice tried the reasonable script. I added the terms. Public, noon, 20 minutes, split check, no history. Email purpose, plus 2 options. We waited. Footsteps retreated. We wrote time, voice. No door opened. The babies slept through my pulse. That counted as a win. What I felt versus what I filed during the birth week. Felt. Announced like a parade so the internet knows I survived. Filed. 2 JPGs named like receipts, shared with no one online. Felt. Let family in. Just for a minute. Filed. Password. No information flag. Visitor's card. Cards only. Felt. Court is over. Relax the rules. Filed. Terms card on the fridge. Quiet rule. 24. P.O. box in every email signature. Felt. Courage should feel loud. Filed. Minutes. Pump. Kangaroo. Nap. Breathe. Soft counted more. Somewhere between day 6 and day 10, we decided to move from deciding to doing. We gave notice on the apartment with a date that honored the order and a lease that didn't punish us for choosing small. A friend texted 2 units near a Seattle park that had a swing the color of a memory. We picked the one with a front desk and a mailbox that would learn our P.O. box rhythm. I wrote ordinary on the calendar like it was a place we had tickets to. 2 nights before we left the NICU, a nurse asked if we wanted to do a car seat trial together. Straps adjusted, buckles checked, a timer on the counter. It's the only kind of test I like, I said. She smiled. Scheduled? She answered, and set 20 minutes. They passed. The monitors didn't yell. I cried in the supply closet because gratitude sometimes needs 4 shelves and a mop. We walked out into daylight with 2 small humans who had no idea a courtroom had learned their last name. The porch light back home clicked to dusk, even though we were still in the car. I could have made that an omen. I made it a timer. Tonight, sleep. Tomorrow, soup. Next week, Seattle. The next chapter wasn't a climax. It was a choice. Keep offering rescues I couldn't sustain or offer small things I could. Rooms, shifts, soup, study, paper. I picked the small and the keepable. Seattle didn't feel like a reset button. It felt like a smaller address that didn't know our porch by heart. The first morning, Fog hung like a curtain, and the building's front desk clicked a pen over a sign-in sheet that would become a quiet kind of security. We picked up 2 keys, a packet of rules, and a mail card for our P.O. box. I taped our terms card inside the closet before the boxes were open. Publicum noon 20 minutes. Split check, no history. Quiet hours, 24, after any hard contact. No doorstep items, front desk, P.O. box only. I wasn't trying to be dramatic, I was trying to be keepable. Ray called a friend who managed a sister restaurant 5 blocks from a park with a swing the color of a memory. 2-day shifts, 1 mid. I told her, green hour stays green. She knew what that meant. 1 protected block for appointments, naps, or crying in a car if hormones decided to rehearse. I printed Ms. Lopez's soup recipe and pinned it above the stove like a family photo. Distance hadn't moved her from my kitchen. It had just turned her prayers into texts shaped like saltines. We built a week that would hold us. Mornings, walks around the block, 10 minutes, no headphones, boys in a double stroller like royal passengers. I learned the slow elevator's moods and a barista's name who wrote mine with just an initial. Afternoons, library cards, alias on file, a spot by the aquarium where the twins fell asleep, and I remembered how much I like quiet rooms with strangers who aren't asking for a story. Evenings, porch light set to dusk, the smell of laundry and cumin, emails answered only at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m., windows like railings. I also made a menu, so generosity wouldn't depend on adrenaline. Back home, I had learned to stop auditioning for Savior and carry offers I could keep. In Seattle, I wrote them down like a diner card. Rooms, porch, library table, or cafe at noon. 20 minutes only. Shifts. Cover half a block. No doubles to fix other people's disasters. Soup. 1 jar. Labeled with date and salted, add water. Return same day. Study. Templates, naming patterns, 10 questions, timer. Paper, read forms in public, no loans, no cosigns, no shared accounts. Proof, scan, label, email with proof so 2 a.m. can't lie. I slid the card behind SPB and treated kindness like inventory, not vibes. How small worked when the first ask came. The first ask in Seattle arrived before breakfast. A dishwasher texted that his sitter had fallen through. Can you watch my kid till 3? Old me would have rearranged the day into a performance. New me answered with a kept offer. I can't do all day. Offer, I'll cover your first hour so you're not late. At 12:20, meet me in the cafe to list 3 sitters and bus routes. I'll read any paperwork, 12:40, Dawan, and S. He sent 3 and a heart. I wore the carrier, stacked plates for 1 hour, then used break to make a napkin grid. Sitter A, evenings only. Last minute, okay. Sitter B, mornings, requires 2 days' notice. Community center, drop-in, 11-3, sliding scale. I wrote a summary he could hand the desk. Dwyn out 5, answer 9, dado 3, no or dude. Childcare's options. V1. PDF. He took a photo of the sign-up and texted at 2:10 that he'd made it. I put the proof in my folder. No rescue arc. Logistics did the move. The budget that stopped my yes from overdrafting. Seattle is beautiful and expensive. We built a zero-based budget that hated poetry and loved rent. Every dollar got a job. Kindness got one, too. $10 a week for microgrants. The kind receipts can carry without turning into resentment. When the community center's notary was free, but copies were 10 sa'ai, I brought $2 in quarters and a stack of paper. People left with stamped forms and names spelled right. We left with $2 less and more of our week intact. I labeled it like everything else. 2025-09-10. Note, micro grant notary copies Dear 20X PDF. The file didn't brag. It remembered. Reliability, the quiet flex. A server DM'd at 5:42 a.m. Car's dead. Can you spot me till Friday? 5 months earlier, that text would have been my kryptonite. In Seattle, I kept my script. I don't do loans. Offer, I'll cover your first hour so you can bus in. At 12:20, I'll call 2 tow options. At 12:40, add 1. I'll read any paperwork at the cafe. We priced reality while the toast popped. Tauco A, $95 hook, plus 3 cows MI. Tauco B, $85 hook, plus 4 setter MI. Shop diagnostic, $65. Window 2448. I typed a tiny plan with checkboxes, hook, shop, authorization, payday, and she didn't need my wallet. She needed math and a voice that refused panic. By dinner, the problem had shrunk to the size it really was. Study, not cheerleading. A hostess needed to pass a food handler test. She asked for all afternoon. I wanted to be the person who sits next to you for hours. My twins wanted a mom with rent. I used a clock. No to the whole afternoon. Offer 2 10-question sprints. I'll send a timer screenshot and grade your answers at 6:20 and 8 cows. Tomorrow, 12 cows, 12:20 in the cafe. We'll do your weak spots. She passed. A week later, she cried in the walk-in for something that had nothing to do with the exam and everything to do with being 22. I handed her water, set a 5-minute timer, and kept quiet. Some rooms needed silence more than speeches. Paper as a love language. Seattle taught me an art I didn't know I liked, being the person who labels. I became boring on purpose, and my life got lighter. The proof folder filled with small things that made 2 a.m. stand down. 2025-09-06, shift, swap, at 12:1, Jasmine, PDF. Photo of schedule with initials. 2025-09-07, timer, sprint, food handler, 2 cows 10, PDF, screenshots, plus scores. 2025-09-08, email, template. 3, name, PDF, 1 edit only. 2025-09-10, note, micro grant, notary, copies, 1/20X, PDF, quarters counted. Kindness that only lives in memory turns into a fight. Kindness that prints becomes a policy. Community, chosen like groceries. I didn't join a big group. I joined rooms. Tuesday, storytime at the library. We sat near the fire truck puzzle. Friday, stroller loop with 2 moms who liked calendars. Sunday afternoon, porch tea with a neighbor named Nora, who used to be a school secretary and still carried a stamp in her purse. She stamped the boys' initials on their tiny socks because she said laundry respects paperwork. When Seattle asked for more of me than I could afford, I used the smallest yes I owned. No, and here's the small thing I can do. A neighbor posted about eviction court. I didn't offer rent. I offered templates, meeting invite, 3-paragraph summary, and the file naming rule that has saved more fights than therapy. He wrote back, bless you, and I filed that too, under proof of being useful without drowning. One night, I almost broke my rule. We were 3 months in when a coworker knocked at 9:10 p.m. with the oldest script, just $40 till Friday. She had eyes like a story I used to star in. My mouth started to say, okay. I stopped. I took the line like a railing. No, and here's the small thing I can do. I offered soup and a half shift. She took the shift. At 9:58, she texted that the hour had covered her ride home and she'd forgotten what help without debt felt like. I slid the message into proof and slept without arguing with ghosts. Pricing my yes in real currencies. Seattle made me honest about what I actually had. Minutes, 20 at noon, 40 in the evening. Templates. SPB card, 3-paragraph summary, meeting invite, naming pattern. Errands, library scan, notary info, bus route print, jar return. If an ask didn't fit those currencies, it wasn't no forever. It was not what I sell. When I kept to that menu, people learned that my name meant kept. What I felt versus what I did, felt. If I don't loan money, I'm stingy. Did. Covered an hour, made a toe grid, read a form. The problem moved. Felt. A good friend sits all afternoon. Did. 2 10-question sprints with a timer. 1 20-minute cafe block. She passed. Felt. Soup is insulting. Did. Labeled jar. Same-day return. Next week, she swapped me a close trick I didn't know. Felt. Small yeses will make people hate me. Did. Watched relief arrive anyway. Small and on time beats big and never. The one offer I made to myself. On Sunday nights, I gave myself the same shape of help. 20 minutes under the lamp listing this week's Keepable yeses. Who might get soup? Which 2 people would get a template? What hour I could cover without lying to Wednesday. Then I wrote the sentence that makes me generous again. You are not the emergency. You are the schedule. I put the index cards behind SPB, washed the jar I just emptied, and set the porch light to dusk. Warmth on a timer. Kindness with a clock. Seattle didn't fix history. It made rooms where history didn't get to shout. It taught me that rescue is loud and rare. Reliability is quiet and daily. I chose daily. Then the letters started arriving. One from a treatment center with an apology that felt clean. One from my mother with 3 sentences that sounded like weather learning verbs. I didn't post them. I filed them. I learned that sometimes forgiveness starts as a file name before it becomes a feeling. The first letter came with a metered stamp and a return address that wasn't a house. Treatment Center, Unit C, my name in careful block print. No hearts, no perfume. I didn't open it in the hallway. I put it on the kitchen table the way a nurse places a tray, flat, neutral, and set a timer for 10 so my hands wouldn't outrun my rules. Marcus had told me what to do if anything from my sister arrived. Do not respond directly. Under the 24-month order, contact lived through counsel or not at all. I scanned the envelope front and back, filed it as 2025-1002 ENV Treatment Center, initials .pdf, and texted Marcus, letter received, I'll drop at your office for review. He replied, received, I'll acknowledge via counsel. Inside was an apology that felt cleaner than the internet ever manages. 4 short sentences, no excuses, a line about continuing treatment, and a request that someday I'd consider reading a list with her counselor present. I didn't post it. I didn't craft a statement. I wrote a log entry. Proof 1002, 11:14 a.m. Letter via treatment center. Forwarded to counsel. No direct reply. Then I taped a new, small rule above my sink. Pause rule 14. For letters that move the heart, I wait 14 days before decisions. Day 15, I can schedule public noon 20 for logistics only, or extend the pause. That night, I told my husband I felt 2 things at once. Relief that words existed, and grief that they had to live on paper. He poured tea, set the Quiet Rule 24 card next to my mug like a bookmark, and said, steady first, then kind. The second letter came on a Wednesday with my mother's handwriting. No return address. I logged the envelope, opened it at the table, kitchen voice even alone, and read 3 sentences that sounded like weather learning verbs. I am trying to be the mother who can be kept. Thank you for meeting in public. Can we have coffee next Thursday? There was a card inside with a watercolor pear. I slid it into a clear sleeve behind the OB note. Spring filed near winter, and wrote, Proof, 10:09, 1:03 p.m. Card from mom, no return ad. Request, the coffee, pause, rule, 14, started. The pause felt cold. It also felt like a crib rail. Day 15 fell on a Friday. I sent the only yes I can keep. Public, noon, 20 minutes, split check, no history. Corrections, fax only, by email tomorrow after lunch. 2 options. Thufry, 12, Gauss, 12:20, at the library cafe. She picked Friday and asked, Can I bring a card? I said yes to card, no to gifts, and added the line to my terms in pencil. 8, no gifts at door or table. Cards. Okay. Wrapped items. Lost and found. I walked to the cafe early and took the seat with my back to the wall and the clock in view. Nora, the retired school secretary 1 floor down, had loaned me a stamp the boys liked to play with. I returned her tin same day because loops closed are how I stay human. At 11:59, Mom arrived with a card and no bag. It felt like a small miracle, which is to say it felt keepable. Purpose? I asked, pointing at the template I bring to every check-in. Check-in, 20 min, logistics only. Who? No substitutes. Purpose. 1 sentence. Output, date, time, tasks, corrections. Window, fax only. Quiet hours, 24. She touched the card as if checking its species. Purpose? To hear how the boys are doing and to apologize for the slap. I nodded, wrote purpose in the blank, and said, Logistics only, no history. Then I started my timer. We talked like we had agreed to be adjacent to big things without trying to lift them. I told her the twins slept in shifts the way unions wish they could. She asked if she could help with diapers. I pointed her to the P.O. box on the card. She took out a dental form, hers, not mine, and asked a question about the authorization box. We read it out loud, bracketed the vague part, and wrote, specify or strike. 10 minutes of standing in the future with a pen moved more life than any retrospective autopsy of the past. At 12:15, she asked for one edit. Can I text received after your summaries so you know I saw it? I wrote received okay under quiet hours, 24, and drew the line darker. At 12:18, I wrapped. Next, Fry, 12, Azra, S12:20, holds, public, no history. Split check, cards, okay. After. I'll email a summary at 4 p.m. Corrections, fax only. Tomorrow after lunch. Quiet hours, 24, start after. Micro rule, received allowed during quiet hours. All else waits. We split checks, walked to the door, and said goodbye without auditioning for closeness. Outside, she handed me the card and said, Open it at home. I did. At the table, a place that turns drama into paper. 2 sentences. I'm trying to be the kind of mother who can be kept. Thank you for not opening the door. I filed it next to the treatment center letter, not because we were done, but because paper first is the only way I know how to be kind without slipping. Marcus sent an update the following Monday. He had acknowledged the treatment center letter to opposing counsel, no violation charged because contact flowed through the legal channel. If you ever want a clinician-mediated session someday, he wrote, I'll request a format. Public noon, 20 minutes, 2 clinicians, no history, logistics only, summary at 4. I didn't say yes. I was still on day 9 of the pause rule. I wrote the option on a sticky and put it behind the quiet rule card like a rain check. 2 other things tried to use the letters as a key. A cousin DM'd, If she apologized, you can drop the order now. I pasted my decline plus redirect. I keep legal matters through counsel. I won't discuss orders with family. For logistics, email purpose plus 2 noon options. And a well-meaning neighbor asked, "Does this mean forgiveness?" I answered with the sentence I was learning to live. Forgiveness starts as a file name before it's a feeling. She nodded like a person who once worked a school office and had watched grown-ups learn form before freedom. I sent my 3-paragraph summary at 4:00, the day of the cafe meeting. The tone, HR trusts. Subject, proof, phrase, 12 zao sega, 12 ndawani, check-in, logistics only. We met at Library Cafe, Mom plus me, public noon 20, split check, no history. Red dental form, penciled micro rule. Received allowed during quiet hours, all else tomorrow after lunch. We set fry 12 jiu, 12:20 holds. Cards okay, no doorstep items, P.O. box only. Next, summary stands, corrections, facts only, accepted tomorrow after lunch. Quiet hours, 24, begin now. I CC'd myself and tagged it proof so 2 a.m. couldn't make a documentary out of a 20-minute scene. 2 weeks later, another letter arrived, this time routed properly through Marcus, from the treatment center's clinician. It had a format attached, not a plea. 10 minutes with a counselor only, no sister, to review discharge boundaries and confirm we would keep communication through counsel. That I could do. We scheduled Thursday, noon, 10 minutes, on speaker with Marcus dialed in. I put my SPB card next to the phone like a seatbelt. The call was boring in the way healing likes. The clinician read terms. I said yes to portal only. No direct messages, no third-party contact. I declined any joint sessions for now and said I'd reconsider in 6 months if the order stayed clean. Day 0 of a future pause rule. I hadn't earned yet. The clinician used the word compliance twice and gratitude once. I made a PDF. 20, 25, 10, 24, note. Treatment discharge boundaries. PDF and filed it where it could carry the weight, my feelings could not. There was a temptation I want to tell the truth about. The night after that call, I drafted a long message to my mother about how forgiveness might look. I deleted it. I wrote received to her last check-in and set the phone under a towel. Enthusiasm is not a strategy. Scheduling is. What I felt versus what I filed that month. Felt, this apology fixes it. Filed, pause, rule, 14, public, noon, 20. Summary, at 4, quiet hours, 24. Felt, I should prove I'm not cruel by replying now. Filed, routed through counsel, no direct replies, a 10-minute clinician call with terms. Felt, post a caption about growth so the internet knows. Filed, note, treatment discharge boundaries. PDF and soup. I returned Nora's tin same day. Felt, kindness first, steady later. Filed, steady first, then kind. Kindness had a job once paper lay the road. The letters didn't change our history. They changed my furniture. SPB on the fridge, pause rule taped to the sink, a calendar that could host 2 small rooms instead of 1 long one. They let me put spring in the binder near winter without pretending the weather was fixed. That's how I landed at the last part of this story with something I could hand you that isn't a rant or a riddle. 3 cards you can copy tonight. SPB, terms, and next Thursday. Plus 1 sentence for your fridge that kept my house human while the world begged for a movie. I didn't flip a life with a speech. I stacked Tuesdays. Tuesdays became weeks, and weeks turned into rooms that stayed calm when the bell rang. The porch light clicked to dusk on a timer. The door stayed closed unless there was purpose class. 2 noon options. Ordinary, repeated, worked like medicine. What changed wasn't my relatives, it was my furniture. The small pieces I kept where panic could reach them. A 1-sentence SPB, a handful of terms I actually obeyed, a proof folder even my 2 a.m. brain respected, and the rule that quiet hours, the 24, followed anything hard. I stopped auditioning for sympathy and started keeping appointments. When I forgot, the rules carried me until I remembered. People asked how I made peace with not fixing everything. I didn't. I learned to price my yes in minutes I could keep. I learned that gentle in tone and firm in terms kept rooms human. I learned the difference between a story and a schedule. My babies didn't need me to be brave on camera. They needed my windows at 8 and 6, my soup warm, my sleep boring. If you were at my kitchen table, I would have slid you 3 cards, not inspiration, instructions. Copy mine, then make them yours. Card 1, SPB, said once, kitchen voice. Status, I'm safe. Plan, I met in public by appointment. Boundary, I didn't argue at the door or on the phone. I said it through wood when drama tried to recruit me. Card 2, terms, kept beats clever. Public noon, 20 minutes. Split check. No history, logistics only. Quiet hours, 24, after any meeting, received aloud. No doorstep items, front desk, P.O. box. In writing for anything hard, I didn't explain the rules, I used them. Card 3, next Thursday, 1 Keepable offer. I can't do that, and here's the small thing I can do. Room, shift, shaka, soup, study, paper, Thursday, 12, wait, 12, 20. When I priced help in minutes and templates, kindness stopped overdrafting my life. I won't promise you a montage. I will hand you my drawer, the meeting template, the 3-paragraph summary, facts, terms, next, the naming rule for files a judge who doesn't love you can still find in 30 seconds. I kept those in a pinned comment so 2 a.m. strangers could copy without asking. None of this was legal advice, just Tuesday advice. If this story earned your steadiness, here's how you could help the next woman who finds this at 2 a.m. On comment, copy-paste these 3 lines word for word. My SPB, I'm safe. I don't. One term I'll keep this week. Exact words. One small offer I can keep. Room, shift, chakar, soup, study, paper, plus daytime. I pinned the clearest, keepable ones so someone else could borrow them without shame. Add 1 Tuesday, not thunder, so I could find yours. 2, save and share. Save this for your next shaky morning. Share it with a friend who needs a schedule, not a savior. 2 sentences in a text beat 50 in a fight. 3, subscribe for the next practical. I posted the tiny PDFs, SPB card, meeting invite, 3-paragraph summary, file naming rule, in the pinned comment, and queued a follow-up on first PTA night plus the fridge sentence that worked with teachers. If you wanted more scripts, not speeches, subscribing told the algorithm to hand this drawer to more women at midnight.